actually saw that today. I had heard about it because Lisa heard it at coffee this morning.
No, that's not it.
I need to get him along with
Real quick. How you doing, Jeff?
but
Nice. No boost. Yeah, it's better.
Oh, no problem.
Jeff, how are you?
Okay, how are you?
Good? Yeah, well, feels good to get back to normal,
A little bit, yeah.
doesn't it?
Chair feels better for a long night.
Yeah, there you go. Just in time.
Pulled all the ropes off the church benches.
Did you? I didn't go Sunday. I didn't know how busy it would be and people, half the church, I didn't know.
I was teasing your mom about it.
What was that? Tour of the bars?
No, a bouquet of flowers on top of 2 boxes of shells.
That was Daryl's idea.
Well, that was her birthday.
No, that's Mother's Day.
Yeah.
You have to know the,
Her son come over and tried to take her last shells away.
I didn't try to take her last shots.
You're ashamed of yourself.
I know. They were turkey rounds, you know?
Oh, okay.
Hard to come by these days.
I've got some. Makes it okay.
Yeah. Oh, mercy. Wow. I'm not used to it.
It's like it never happened.
This is, yeah, it just seems strange.
are we ready?
I think so, because Gretchen said she was going to be late
Okay.
on time for the 7, and I don't know whether, haven't heard about the other 2.
Okay. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order, please.
Council workshop meeting, Monday, May 17th, 2021, 6 p.m. Hydrich? Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Patke?
Here.
Pettit? Reed?
Yes.
Scornia? Sullentrup?
Here.
Wessels?
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
The United States and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so obviously, we've lost our little dividers, which is nice. And then we want to remind everyone to speak into the microphone. And if you are in a comfortable position, please lean forward when you're speaking so that we can pick you up on the microphone. So, okay.
Presentations, salary survey presentation, Beth Tatarko.
We've got, I just want to let everybody know, we've got Beth Tatarko with Austin Peters Group. She'll be going ahead and walking us through her presentation. As most of you know, back in December, we had a salary survey study that we entered into a contract just to go ahead and review the market rates for existing positions. We did have her look at one job description that we had asked her to look at, but pretty much the rest of it was all looking at the salary survey of other cities, and she'll go through that information of how she got to her numbers. I think I gave you a cover letter, and so I'm going to let Beth go ahead and take it over. And hopefully technology is favoring us right now, so go ahead.
Okay, good evening. Shauna, are we good?
We are good.
We're good. Sounds great.
Yay. First of all, thank you to Shauna and Darren and Ted for getting me connected and making sure that things are working well. I appreciate that very much. My name is Beth Tatarko. I'm with the Austin Peters Group, and I'm going to share some information. Darren just mentioned we did a market survey update. Some of you might recall in 2017 we did a much more comprehensive study and that had several different elements. This study in 2021 was to go out, the purpose was to find out what the market was doing and to bring back recommendations. So it's a very focused piece of information for you. I'm going to share my screen and let's just hope that this that?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet, okay, hang on. There we go.
Now we can.
Okay, very good. So what I'd like to talk about is just review what we did, the survey information. You have a copy of the PowerPoint in front of you, I believe, on your iPads. And so I'm going to walk through this and then take questions that you might have. So let's just get started. I'm with the Austin Peters Group. Like I said, we are in Kansas City, Elderland Park, the same thing. And I'm also in Fort Collins. I was moved here a few years ago, so home away from home, being moved out here. We've owned the company, Becky Crowder and I have, for 23 years. And we've been working with communities all across the Midwest for those 23 years. Many customers and clients in Missouri. We find that there are many communities your size that are seeking similar information. But we also work in Kansas, Iowa, Nebraska, Texas, Wisconsin, Colorado, of course, because I'm here, and also a couple of other states like Tennessee and a few outlying states where we've got longstanding customer relations. So we've done more than 140 projects very similar to the city of Washington's, and over several years here, and again, we've been around since 1998, and so some experience working with communities during that time. Becky Crowder, if she's on this call, she goes by Becky, not Rebecca. This is a little bit about both of us and who we are. I'm a former K-State grad, but Becky would immediately have to jump to tell you all about her Mizzou connections and why she's so proud to be a Mizzou grad. Now, that may not be a hit with everyone in the room, but it's a point of pride for her, and she has her master's in public administration from the Truman School. Let's talk a little bit about the survey and the study. We had a very good response to the survey, and I think there are a couple of reasons why. During the pandemic, many cities really hit the pause button to wait to see what was going to happen in terms of market pay, what was going to happen with their coffers and their budgets. And so immediately, once things began to change and stabilize, you, like many other communities, wanted to know what people were doing. And so we always share back data and information with people who responded. So we had a very good response. We had 27 respondents to the survey. Some of that is because we have some private sector responses from the Washington area, but also we have some unique positions with the city of Washington, so we have some additional library responses as well that represent community libraries in general. Anyway, overall, a great response. We appreciate all those who did respond, and you'll see a list here in a moment. We did talk to them about compensation. We also talked about other benefits such as health and retirement and leave. We wanted to make sure you were on track in those areas as well. This time for the 2021 study, we did incorporate more communities from the St. Louis Metroplex. And when I say the word Metroplex, I really mean region, and not St. Louis proper or anything like that, but the counties surrounding the St. Louis area. So we incorporated a few more of those communities in the survey. I believe it really does represent more communities similar to Washington who are experiencing that out-migration from the city center coming to the outlying county areas. And so we think it's a good representation. We did look at pay in terms of the 60th percentile of the market, and I'd like to talk for just a quick second about what that means. At the 60th percentile, if you lined up 10 employers from top to bottom, the top paid person to the bottom one at 10, at the 60th percentile, that means that 4 employers are paying more than you, So you're just right over that notch of what we would call, kind of that middle of the market. At the 60th percentile, we find cities are just a little bit more competitive, and if you're able to retain employees once you're at least at that point. And of course, we wanted to share the findings with you this evening, the governing body. A little bit about the market
Can't get current.
and just a few comments here. On the left side of this chart, you'll see there's a number 1 through 8. That represents how many communities responded from those counties, or how many responses we had from that county. So, for example, Franklin, obviously, we had more respondents from the county. St. Charles County, quite a number. St. Louis, Jefferson. As you can see, pretty much the metro region as a whole is well represented here. The list of communities, I alphabetized these by county. And so I've got the name of the community and then the county that they're in. But again, you can see you had several private sector responses here from Franklin County. You also had some communities responding as well. And then on the next slide, we've really got the other communities from St. Charles and St. Louis County. And a couple of no responses, and that's okay. We understand people are busy and not everybody can respond to the survey. Just a few no responses here. So that's the market group. We do believe that this was a good representative group and gave us some good information regarding all your positions. So the first thing we do is we look at that 60th percentile of the market, and then we work on formulating those pay ranges based on that market data. If an employee was under a new pay range, we make sure that we're recommending that adjustment for that employee. Nobody received a pay proposed decrease or anything like that. That'd be pretty detrimental or catastrophic. But anyway, that did not happen. The other thing that we did was, once we look at where those new pay ranges are, we want to look at where people are in terms of their time in position. Have they moved appropriately through the pay range based on their peers? And this is called a compression adjustment. You want to move people through the pay range and move them slightly apart based on their time in that position. And that helps kind of spread people apart so that not everybody's sitting on top of each other in terms of pay. You're recognizing the contribution that people make to the organization. You're also recognizing what the market would be paying them. And so that's called a compression adjustment. The findings, and these are in your PowerPoint, the total to make the wage adjustments to bring people to the new minimum as well as move them through the pay ranges based on compression is $146,965. And so for that, I've provided a detailed employee worksheet, and Darren has that information with the analysis of what those costs are. I do want to talk for a moment about police pay. We know that police pay in the metro area has been moving very rapidly. We've done several communities in the metro area, and we've been watching this, as well as all the proposition funding that has been passed. And when we went to analyze police pay, and we do that separately, what we found is that your police pay did not lag as far behind as the other employees, the other employee groups. I am certain that without the proposition funding, well, I know for a fact, this would have been very, very different if you had not had the infusion of funding from the proposition funding and the adjustments that you have made. Those have made a significant difference in terms of where you stand in the market for police pay. So kudos to you guys. I know it wasn't exactly maybe the magic formula that everyone wanted, but it has made a huge difference in terms of how you compare and stack up to the market. The other piece I want to talk just briefly about, we did look at benefits. You are doing very well. I looked at some cost factors as well. In terms of your coverage is good, your coverage is competitive, and your costs are slightly lower than your peers. And that's true for health insurance and dental as well. You don't provide vision. Some of your peers, in fact, the majority of your peers do provide some coverage for vision, and so that's something to think about in the future as you consider what our benefit package does look like. I think what I want to do is just stop there and take questions that you all might have, and see if I can answer those and find out what kind of issues people are thinking about.
Open it up for any
Are there any questions or comments? Mark?
Always.
Oh,
Thank you very much. I appreciate the K-State reference, even though I was hopeful for the Mizzou person too, but that's okay.
Can you hear him, Beth?
Sort of.
Yeah, speak into that mic
Okay.
a little closer, Mark.
All right, I'll speak louder. Two questions. One, you mentioned that you also, 3 of your respondents were private companies, and I was wondering how those companies compare to the city of Washington in terms of number of employees or whatever, and what kind of comparison there could be. And the other question was wondering if doing better, relatively better in the area of benefits, does that change that? You gave an overall figure that we need to look at to come up to that 60th percentile. Does that benefits package make a difference on that?
Oh, we looked at benefits separately. We looked at let me just start with that question, sorry, and I'll go backwards. So when we look at benefits, and by the way, Shauna would know this, Darren would know this, when we look at benefits, there's no commentary either here about the quality of benefits. I think that's something to keep in mind. So what we did with benefits is we're looking at where the average, in this case, what your market peers are doing and what you're doing, and we're just comparing across the board how you're stacking up with the market responses. And so that's what we did with benefits. It's not as detailed as what you get from probably your insurance consultant. We're just trying to give you a sketch in terms of how you stack up in terms of benefits. So that's one part. The other part about the private sector, those employers, it's a similar list to what we used in 2017. I got some help from Darren in terms of who those employers were and their contacts. Private sector is not willing to share a lot of information. So I think we have to keep that in mind. And in fact, the information we got was very, very limited. And so in fact, if we had more of a response from the private sector, I might have more comments or feedback to answer your question. But we had a very limited response. In fact, it might be for an accounting position or it might be for a maintenance position, but they certainly don't have the matches to all the positions that you have. They only have a few. So it's very limited in terms of what we get. And if we'd had a larger number of private responses for a position, I could answer that question better.
Thank you.
anyone else?
Good.
Okay. Well, I guess, did you
Yeah,
have anything?
well, the only thing I would like to thanks Beth for doing this. We felt comfortable. We knew that she was aware of our job descriptions after doing it in 2017, so she had some familiarity to go ahead and, I think, enhance what we had done in 2017. All we're asking for the council tonight is just to recognize this. What we would like to do is move forward with the finance department, because we're getting into the budget season, to incorporate this bottom line, this 146,000, to try to take care of that in our next budget year, starting in October. And so that's kind of the goal. And as we get through the budget hearings, we can go ahead and address that a little bit further. But right now, the timing is right. That's the reason why we timed this the way we did, because so this comes into the budget season and we can go ahead and get that ready. So all we're asking you, this was more of an informational thing for you tonight, so you saw kind of what we need to look at to get to that 60th percentile that Beth was talking about, and how we need to go about that as we move forward in the budget for next year.
Can I just ask simply, is there any idea if it's more management positions or if it's entry-level positions that are more?
I would say it's
differences or not?
I'll let Beth answer that if she wants to go ahead. I thought it was across the
I think
board.
that's across the
The
board.
question was, could you comment on the distribution of what positions needed an increase? Was it more management or more entry level or laborers of those sorts? Could you talk about the distribution of where we think the dollars need to be increased the most?
This was widely distributed across the employee groups. We did dive in and look where we thought things might be falling behind, and we didn't find any significant areas. For example, just exactly what you said. So we did dive in at those positions, and this is broadly across all positions.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else with a question, comment? Thank you, Beth, for being with us this evening.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Beth. I think if there's no other questions, like I said, we'll let Beth go ahead and log off so she doesn't have to sit here and watch the rest of our meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So at this point, I guess we'll, is there any further discussion? Otherwise, we'll entertain a motion to approve.
Are we going to approve the full amount of 146,000? Is that what you're saying?
No.
We're going to accept, actually, basically, we're going to accept her
Findings.
findings.
Basically, what we're going to, like I said, what we're going to try to do is incorporate her findings for those wages and move forward into the next budget. If we look at it and we say, I don't know, I mean, let me give you an example. Back in 2017, we had, I think, a little bit more of an adjustment than that we had to do. So there was probably about, I don't know, about a dozen positions that it took almost up to 2 years, I think, to go ahead and get the full amount, because we just couldn't bite it all off at one time. So we went with for example, I'm going to pick on like a maintenance worker 1. We wanted to make sure that we were in that range. We were concerned about that in 2017. We're still concerned about that in 2021, but I don't think we have as much of an adjustment. But the idea is to try to incorporate this into all of the 2021 budget as we start that process and present that to you before the hearings, before we adopt the budget for the next budget year, which starts October 1.
Well, I don't know much about financing for the city of Washington, but I know that the last 3 years we've had trouble with employees leaving because they weren't getting paid enough, and I just hope that we can try to fix that number so we don't lose somebody throughout the next couple of years because of,
Right.
$5 an hour or whatever. You know?
We're looking for retention as well as,
Attraction.
recruitment.
Attraction.
So this is both recruitment and retention that we're trying to do, because we have good employees that we want to keep. And so that's why we increased our scope, so that, where can you drive and make more money is what we wanted to look at. So we wanted to
While
look.
looking at the scope, I'm worried about losing employees.
Right.
Well, I think that's the point of getting through this process, to get it to budget so that we can incorporate it quicker.
Okay.
That's the quickest we can incorporate. I mean, I don't know that we can incorporate it any quicker than before your next budget year.
Right, October.
Right.
Okay,
Okay?
thanks.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Holtmeyer, seconded by Sullentrup, to approve the presentation and move forward with working that into the budget. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the motion. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
The American Rescue Plan of 2021 presentation.
Okay, so this is what we'd like to do tonight. This is just staff recommendations. I asked our department heads to go ahead and try to figure out what are the projects that we can use these funds for. We cannot just use these funds for anything we want. I just want to make that very clear. I'm going to go through the categories of how you can go ahead and utilize the funds. It's pretty clear. And then this is just to throw out those numbers that I've received from the department heads on projects that, like I said, do fit into these categories. So let me go ahead and get started. Oops, there we go. So we're scheduled to receive approximately, not really approximately, that's an exact amount, $2,593,546.42. Pretty exact. That's pretty exact. In 2 payments, and will have to be spent by December of 2024. Washington is considered a non-entitlement city, meaning we're not in a metro area, so we'll get a direct allocation right to us. It's not going to be through St. Louis County, et cetera. Funds will not have to be applied for, but we will have to account for how the money was spent. So again, we don't have to go to another entity like the county and request these funds. We just have to show at the end of the day in an audit where we spent the money and what category was that. Steve?
Can we ask questions as we go?
Yeah, absolutely.
Payments will have to be spent by December of 2024. What is the reason for that?
That was the legislation. You have to spend the funds by that time,
It
December.
seems like an awful long time to, I mean,
Well, as you'll see, there's some projects that you have that could take years to go ahead and to fully develop, and we'll get to those. So you'll see that. So what can the money be used for? There's 4 categories. A basically has to do with assistance for your tourism. This could be programs like advertising to encourage visitors to return. You could assist local hospitality industry members. As you all know, the city has a contract with the chamber, and the chamber has, and in return, does our division of tourism and takes care of those. And they receive a bed tax as their main source of revenue, et cetera. But this is to assist that element of the industries that were hit, or what they felt was hit during COVID.
Is it strictly how the city expends that, or does this reach out to other tourism businesses, small businesses?
You could, if you wanted to do that, you could. I will tell you that basically what we had proposed to spend with the money was not going other than to the chamber and basically tourism driven, to try to go ahead and help them. It was not, we have not proposed something to go directly, for example, to hotels or something, or along those lines, for example. Category B, this is where you can go ahead and pay out money to all employees that work throughout the COVID. We'll talk a little bit about that. Category C, this is where you can go back. If you'll remember, the CARES Act basically forbid you using the funding to reimburse cities, or to have cities reimburse lost revenue that they had as a result of COVID. This one, Category C's, this specifically allows it. You can go back and say, okay, we lost X number of dollars from rental of pavilions, for example. We can show that this is what we've received during that time frame, normal years. Here's the money that we lost. So you can go ahead and use that. Finally, Category D, this gets into what I was talking about, Steve, was the thing of you can do sewer, water, or broadband projects, and they don't have to be tied directly to COVID. So you can go ahead and do a water line expansion, a sewer line expansion. You could go ahead and do a broadband investment in your community, et cetera, all of those. So that's the reason why I think it stretches out to 2024. The other ones are lost revenue that you had. So on April 15th, we sent out to all the department heads asking them for lost revenue, and that the projects that they submitted over to the county, and projects eligible under this, we gave them the criteria, but we also were looking at some of the things that we did not get reimbursed from Franklin County. And to date, We have listed eligible projects totaling, it was actually a little bit more than this if you took in the sewer infrastructure, et cetera. We had to cut some of those dollars back just to go ahead and fit this in within the budget, okay? So let's go through category A terms of what we have. So tourism related. One of the projects that the chamber has come up with, and we've had a committee working on, Steve, I know you're familiar with it, that we've worked with the chamber on, is they wanted to have a campground within the city limits. They looked at doing this. It was brought up as a discussion item when the capital improvement sales tax was talking about to be renewed. However, they chose at that time not to submit that as one of their projects. I think later on they were probably looking, we probably should still try to do something with that. So our, thanks to John and his staff and engineering, they came up with a cost estimate of what it would take to go ahead. They've looked specifically at a site that the city already owns that we had acquired through flood funds that we had back in 2001, I think, or 2000 from that flooding. And it's the property down there on 9th and International, where there was a trailer park down there years ago. So the idea was you could fit about 20, 24 pads in there, and without getting too much in the weeds on that project or whatever, we looked though, and the cost to go ahead and develop that would be $200,000. We could spend that money towards that. That would help Chamber go ahead and get that set up. We could then enter into an agreement with the Chamber if they wanted to go ahead and they could, the idea has always been for them to manage it, but then maybe we would get a proceeds of some of the revenue that comes back from it. So anyway, that's something that could be, but this would just cover the infrastructure to get it up and running. Assist Downtown Washington Inc. with replacement or additional wayfinding signage of $50,000. They've got they would like to update some of the wayfinding signage that you see around downtown to get people into downtown. We've also talked to them about having some type of sign, digital sign that could have several messages at maybe a key location in town, so that you don't get less of the fence posts and the vinyl signs, et cetera, that just kind of pop up for individual events. Maybe you have one at a key location in town and it scrolls, and you can go ahead and do that. So we've thrown this idea out to both Downtown Washington and the Chamber about that as well, and they seem to be happy with that. They like the concept.
Would they both share it or just?
Yeah, they can share it. It does, it could be a community message board if you want to go ahead and talk about whether it's sunset on the riverfront or whether it's the Art and Wine Fest coming up, whatever event that they want to advertise.
About a library here?
Yeah, something you could do something
Similar
similar like
to
that.
that.
I think obviously those things they tend to get dated over time. I mean, the technology seems to, as you see with the signs or whatever, they get.
Now, Darren, these are just examples, right? I mean,
These are just
yeah,
examples.
just-
These are all recommendations that we had that would fit the categories of what the funds.
Because when we years back when we were talking about the dog park, we were to put a dog park, 9th and International came up, and I was told, and I believe Jeff, you were there too, maybe not, that we couldn't build anything on 9th and International.
You have restrictions from FEMA when you purchased it. However, campgrounds are certainly allowed.
Okay.
I think there was a little hesitation maybe from the previous
not
administration about putting it
permanent.
at that location.
They're not permanent structures.
Yeah, they're not permanent structures. Yeah, yeah. So,
Well, either was a dog park at that time, a fence, and
well, I don't know why that answer was why you couldn't use it for that. To me, that would be a open thing that you should have been able to use for that. I don't, I can show you the deed restrictions.
right.
We
I was
have them
just
upstairs.
bringing it up.
Yeah.
That's what I was told at that time.
Yeah, we kind of pursued, when we started looking at that location, that was something that we wanted to bring up, those restrictions that we had with FEMA, but I've even shared them with Mark Piontek, and he's like, yeah, you could use it for that, that's absolutely, so. Anyway, moving on, improvements to fairgrounds, we do have, I think, 30 grand in the budget to try to go ahead and do some sealing and some additional asphalt. We were just gonna add another 20,000 from this to go ahead. I think we'd get everything asphalted then, pretty much, or there'd be a little bit left, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be, the entire fairgrounds gets sealed, like the pavement that's in relatively good shape, but there are some areas that are just unsealable, that need to be overlaid. So it's more just to the west of the Swine Pavilion, that's about the best way to describe it. getting everything to a usable, more usable condition.
Moving on, the other thing, we will need to go ahead and replace our airport fueling truck for the jets. The one that we have is a 1983 truck that we use over there today. Obviously, it's not getting any younger, but it's something that is expensive, and I had asked about a permanent station or a permanent location, but it's easier for it's typical for them, I guess, to go ahead and have a fueling truck, which is easier to navigate around to wherever the jets are located or parked on our tarmac, so.
Yeah, just so you know on that too, it's an 83, it was purchased used.
Correct.
It does obviously have oil water, or fuel water separators, there's a lot of things that go into that. But the way it was described to me from Kevin was when you come to an airport with a jet, you expect to be serviced at that jet. You don't go find a spot, you don't wait in line. We go to them. It's kind of a customer service item, so.
Kevin, you remember we bought that out west somewhere, didn't we?
No, Green Bay or Wisconsin?
That's right,
It was green
yeah.
because of the Packers.
Still is.
That's why I remember. Category B, this would be to go ahead and do a one-time payment to city employees. You had a lot of them, we separated them by exposure to what they had to go ahead and do. Obviously, our law enforcement, our fire department, and field employees such as in Public Works had exposure. During that time, they were out there when everything else was shut down, they were there. So they would have a higher per employee. You see $1,200 is what was proposed. You have support staff of $600 for everything else. And then you would have part-time support staff, because we do have some part-time workers, and then that would be half of the support staff. The total on that is $161,400. That would be a one-time allocation.
And these were all based on exposure, COVID exposure?
Correct. What we try to do is break it down. The 1,200 are the ones for first responders, and then those that had to go out there, for example, like to remind you, for example, John created teams in Public Works, for example, where he'd have 4 guys to a group so that they wouldn't have exposure to the other groups. They worked 3 12-hour days so that they could go ahead and then they'd be off on the other. Some of them had to go ahead. We had them working on Saturdays as a result, so that you could always have these teams available 6 days out of the week. And the idea was get a little bit of experience for all of them. We would have those that were more suited towards our, like if you had a water main bus, you had one guy there that knew what he was doing. We didn't want to be taken down where all of a sudden 3 or 4 of our guys in the water department all get COVID at the same time, get exposed, and then what are you going to do the next time you got a water main bust? So we move those people around, et cetera.
Would
That's
this
one
be
example.
like boils down to like 57 cents an hour? Is that going to be continued or just a one-time deal?
Just the one-time deal.
One time.
One-time deal for these funds.
And we couldn't go more than $13 an hour.
Yeah, and you couldn't spend more than $13 per hour. So it's way less than that, so.
Way less.
57 cents.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. Category C, this is the replacement of lost revenue. So this is stuff that we did not receive as a result of COVID. So if you'll remember, water, sewer, and refuse, we did away with the late charges for about 2.5 months, I think, 2 months, up until, I think, June timeframe, from the end of March to June. So according to Mary, you got $8,800 of those fees. You had the lost revenue from not having the aquatic complex open. There were $71,000. That's how much we would get in from pool passes, et cetera. You had the new aquatic complex equipment. This is for the one that's about to open up. We submitted this filtration system based upon what Westport had told us. They had done the same thing for Mexico, Missouri, for example. They were able to go ahead and receive the CARES Act funds from the county that they were in. However, when we submitted, we were denied. So this would go ahead and put that money towards that. Facility rentals, this is from the parks facilities. This is anything from that you have from pavilions to the auditorium, et cetera, anything, senior center, all of those lost rentals that you had during that time. You also had the lost revenue from Camp Washington not being open at that time, and that was $73,520. Some more replacement, I'm sorry, of lost revenue. You got the library reciprocal agreement, 17,024. Library passports that we lost during that time frame, 7,280. As you all remember, we had to amend our agreement with the chamber for our agreement that we have for the economic development position, and that was they couldn't come up with that, and at that time WCIC, Washington Civic Industrial Corporation, and the Industrial Development Authority both came up with $9,000 apiece to help us out with that shortfall that we had with the chamber. And so we would ask to go ahead and give that money back to WCIC and the IDA now that we have these funds.
Just real quick there,
Yeah.
I know I'm asking a lot of questions.
No, that's fine.
You had all this money up, and devoted, does it go back to each department, or is it gonna go right back into the general fund?
Well, it'd go back to the general fund and see how, for the ones for the lost revenue.
Okay.
And then you've got the mandated COVID sick pay, which several cities asked several times from the county to go ahead. This was the mandated COVID sick pay that we had to pay out. That was not that it was not on our books, but we had to go ahead and pay out at that time. We totaled it up for the people that we had out, and there's your dollar amount that we had asked, or we were going to ask for Franklin County to go ahead and reimburse us. They chose, like I said, I think there might have even been an attempt by the other cities to go ahead and ask for that one more time, and I don't know where that stands as of today. So, but that's the dollar amount that we lost as a result of that mandated COVID sick pay.
And what if that does come back from the county and they come up with more and give it back to, we can't get it twice?
No, we don't even want to ask for it twice. We only want it once.
Right.
So, bigger things. Category D. This is your investment in future water, sewer, and broadband investment. As you know, we have got a contract for an ISP provider to go ahead and move forward with a fiber project within the city. This would be a portion of that money, could be, or if you can see, there's a significant of the 2.5 that we have. This is quite a bit of what we would use towards that first phase that we're looking at. As we all know, this deal is not complete. We're still waiting for a contract of what Mark, it's in his hands right now for us to go ahead. We've given him the parameters of what we want, and that's still something that we would take back to you at a later date to make sure you were comfortable with.
But the broadband investment, we are gonna get the money back.
This would be over with user fees over time, correct? Yes, that goes into our model of how long it would take us to, yeah. You would go ahead and get that investment back.
Initial investment.
Right. That's why you see recovery and investment in Washington, so.
Darren, the Category A and Category D, both of them get into that capital improvements kinds of area. Do any of the things that you've listed here tonight, do any of them overlap at all with our capital improvement sales tax wishes?
No, with the exception of the one, let me get to the next slide and I'll give you an example, okay? Utility payment improvements in finance, there are some things that they wanted to do to better secure where you make your utility payments here at City Hall, et cetera. Right now, it's pretty wide open. There's no glass, there's no nothing. A lot of places, if you've gone to other communities, they've got a little bit more security improvements in there where you make those payments, whether it's your utility payments or you're paying for a building permit, et cetera, those things. So there were some improvements that they wanted to do on the second floor. It's about 15,000 is what we're looking at. Mark, I think this will hopefully answer your question. We've got some projects that we've talked to you about, both east and west, for example, sanitary sewer. And so you do have, some funds that are available. This would just enhance those. You've got, whether we go east, west, or both. If you go to the west, and it's something that is subject to grants such as community development block grants, that would also help as a funding source for it. But this is what we're proposing is $250,000 towards either way, either route, wherever they go. And then you've also got the next item is a water tower. Our water rates, even though we did a water rate increase, by the time we probably need that water tower, we're still not going to have sufficient enough we're still not going to have sufficient enough revenue to go ahead and just pay for that at that time. This would help assist us. But there's an example of another one that we identified in the capital improvement sales tax, and was it 500,000? 500,000 that we have set aside, so this would be on top of that.
Well, and the reason I bring that up is because, the capital improvement, that process to me is so good because we got so much input.
Correct.
From our citizens. And so to me, if we
Anything we
can.
can enhance that.
Yeah, if we can enhance what they have asked for.
Right.
I think that's
Yes.
going to be a good way to use it.
I agree. The water extension west, this would be, we did have more, staff had requested more funds for these, at least the sanitary sewer extension and the water extension, both of those. But in order to try to keep it within the dollar amount that we get allocated to us, this is what we did. But water extension west, that would be for, like I said, that could also enhance the community development block grant if we were able to go ahead and secure that. So if we open up a new industrial park, you have water and sewer that you need to go ahead, this would just be another dollar amount towards that. So to all of the projects that I listed for you before, again, category A, you have a total, that's tourism related, you got 445,000 in there. Category B, which is the one-time payment to staff, you've got, that totals out 161,400. Category C is a replacement of lost revenue, you get 432,000. And category D is the bigger item, and that's almost a little over 1.5 million. If you want to see how that's split up amongst all of the categories, category D obviously is the most significant. You got 60% of the revenue going towards that to be reinvested back into the community. This is just a draft. This is not what we're saying end all be all. We needed a place to start. I wanted to get the department heads to get us their ideas back. And again, you have to work within the category. Steve, I know you gave me some suggestions with regards to that. I tried to address those with both of those items. Somebody had asked too about just helping any 401c3. That would be a little concerning in the sense of you got to try to make sure that it fits the categories that you have. Like I said, it's not just a blank check. You've got to go ahead and be able to spend it into for the amounts that are for one of the categories that they've got listed.
Well, it's amazing how the numbers came so close to what the amount of money that.
Well, I cut that back to make that work. So
we
we
had
had,
an
let me say,
end
we had 3.2.
We had an end, we had to get somewhere with it. So anyway, we were over.
I like how you divided it up, and I think all the things you brought up is probably, those departments probably needed help, and I agree with everything you put up there. It looks really good to me. I don't know how the rest of the council feels, but I think you guys did a fantastic job putting this together.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's
They did a good job.
correctly too, and I think that taxpayers and citizens would appreciate the same simple fact too that there's those people who are on the front lines, they get their share, but we're not giving 90% of it to that. It's the infrastructure things and our daily operating costs that need the most help. But Mark, to your point too, what we did with the capital improvement sales tax just enhanced that. We know we're going to fall short on some of those fundings. So that's in the right spot too, I agree.
And again, like for example, the pool with that filtration system or whatever, then that goes back to the capital improvement sales tax. I should have mentioned that
Correct.
as well too, because we had requested that from the county and we're not. Now those funds can be available for that.
And the good thing is, down the road, once we get our payback from the broadband, we're going to have that money to spend again.
Yeah, I really liked what you did, so.
We were hoping to go ahead, at least get the discussion rolling. So we can set up another, if you think about some other items that you think of, let me know, et cetera, and we'll see what we can go ahead and do. And
One thing comes to mind is city councilman and mayor raises.
did you get that, Ethan? Okay.
Bonus, maybe.
What's up, Wash Mo just said yes.
I'm going to leave it at that.
All right, thank you all. This was just a discussion. We don't really need any approval or anything like that, but it was just a discussion so that you would know the direction that
Yep.
we're heading with
Is that a
this.
second on that motion?
As close as it got.
Okay. I think this covers everything we were,
If we got a little time, can we
It
have
does.
a crowd if there's anybody who wants to speak about this?
Yeah, absolutely. And just the only thing I would like to go ahead and, if the mayor opens it up for comments, this is not the only time that anybody can go ahead and make comments about this. This is just the first draft of here's what we think we could spend the money for, et cetera, that falls in line with what it's supposed to, but by all means.
Reason I asked that is because I got an email today from some, I think Rick Lemons lives on 9th Street, and he wanted to know if he could come and address us, and I think now would be the best time if you got something you want to say.
hey, Rick. Hey, you'll need to give us your name and address.
My name is Rick Lemons. The address I'm referring to is 1701 East 9th Street in Washington. It's down between Camp and International. It's a rental property. I've owned the house for, I don't know, probably 15 years. And every time there's a 2-inch rain, approximately a 2-inch rain within about 2 hours, or within 24 hours, I'm sorry, it seems though every time rainwater infiltrates the sewer system, the sewer line, and we have a backup of sewage and rainwater into the basements there. About 15 to 18 years ago, the city installed backflow valves, and they do work for the most part. However, after they've aged a little bit, we've had to have ours replaced. I'm talking about the sewer line along East 9th Street between Camp and International. It's down along Brush Creek. The property backs up to Brush Creek. There's 13 homes down in through there, and I think there is also a city well down there toward International there. The backflow valves, when they work, it's fine. In 2019, I was living there. We had a 3-inch rain in about 24 hours. The backflow valve failed. The sewer and rainwater backed up into the basement. I've talked to several neighbors about this issue, and they have some of the same problems. The integrity of the sewer line is in question. I mean, if rainwater can get in and back up sewer and rainwater into your basement, then maybe sewage can get out somehow too. I know that's downhill from everywhere, from south, from about 3rd Parkway on downhill, so down toward Brush Creek. When the valves do work properly, residents are unable to use their shower or toilet or running water until the rainwater recedes and the backflow valves open back up, which could be anywhere from days to hours to days. I know this $2.6 million federal relief money the city is expected to receive. That was an excellent presentation about how and where we can spend the money. I completely understand that, and I agree with all of those items. But I think that this sewage system, the sewer line, has been a problem for probably more than 20 years and should receive some priority over that to being improved or replaced somehow so we can keep the sewage and the rainwater from backing up into residents' basements.
Rick, well, I can hold you right there. John, can you explain if this is really happening? How is the sewer getting into the storm sewer from the sewer main?
So, John Nilders, Public Works Director. Yeah, this is kind of it's an issue that exists on older sewer systems, really throughout the city. I mean, the situation you described isn't necessarily unique. As sewer pipes, they age. A lot of them were clay lined. They didn't have gaskets. They were clay pipe, actually. They didn't have gaskets. So when it rains, they obviously infiltrate in. There's also a component called inflow, where there's actually direct piped water. Those come from potential gutters, gutter downspouts. Sump pumps are probably one of the biggest issues that we see. So a lot of these homes built probably until the 80s, they put sump pumps in them, and a lot of those were pumped directly into their sanitary sewer laterals. Well, as you can imagine, if 5, 6 homes are pumping at the same time, that could quickly overwhelm a sewer system. Right. So, not to get too far, but in the 70s, there was a big push to actually disconnect street drains from sanitary sewer, okay? That happened, but what we're seeing is there was never a big push to actually disconnect the home. There was never and the individual sump pumps, the individual downspouts, there was no mechanism. A lot of that had to do with the the city would have to go into a home and do so. So there, you could see where that could cause some conflict. So I know I've been briefing, Kevin and I've been talking about this and briefing Darren on this to kind of, what is the next step and what can I do? And we're looking at options to do so. What the council's been briefed on the last couple of years is we put a lot of emphasis on attacking those things by doing some more sanitary sewer slip lining, which essentially puts a sleeve inside. We're doing some manhole lining. But again, there really is no like magic wand. It's more of a do things as you go and make sure that you're investing in those sewer lines as you go each year, each budget year. We opened up the stormwater fund, or the use tax would be a better name for it, but we opened that up and have more funds come out of that. Last year, I think we spent 180,000 somewhere in there on doing this, and we're going to spend another 180 this year. So there's, it's a recognition that there is issues and that the system does have to be maintained and improved, and we're doing that. Again, how does that change for you specifically? You are kind of at the lower end. All that water and sewage heads that direction because it all goes to the treatment plant. So it's really, we have to attack that at the source, and that'll solve some of that as it gets to your location.
Okay.
So that's a long way to get there, but it's a program, it's a procedure, it's a big macro issue that we have to attack yearly by yearly, and I think we're doing so.
John, you're talking about Sucha Farm?
Yeah, correct. Yep.
What we've been lining our
Yes.
sewer lines with?
Yeah, what it is it's you got a sewer line, they put a fiberglass or a fiber resin in there and they heat it and it takes the shape of that pipe and it literally makes it watertight. So, but again, the magic wand doesn't exist. It's a piecemeal by piecemeal by piecemeal fix, knowing where the sources are.
Okay.
And one of those would be, again, we believe is sump pumps. And it's having to get into those homes and take care of them.
Do some pumps still continue to pump into a sewer line, or do they just pump outside a house?
So city code does not allow you to have a sump pump hooked up to sanitary today.
Right.
Okay? New homes, they're not allowed to do so.
Right.
The issue is, in order to enforce that code, you have to get into the home to do so. Okay, that's one problem. The other issue is that if there's really no mechanism or no incentive for the homeowner to disconnect, so if you're at the top of a hill, you're not experiencing the problem. How do we actually solve that without having some sort of incentive to do it? And that's what we're kind of working our way through with a different funding source.
I can't see where there's any problem other than when it rains.
Correct.
2
Right.
inches in 24 hours.
That's exactly right.
So I would say a majority of the water that's coming in is rainwater runoff.
What happens is when you have
The sump pumps will handle rainwater, but they'll also handle groundwater too.
correct, but a sump pump that is on at minute 5 is staggered from a sump pump that's on at minute 15. They're not on all at the same time when it rains.
Right.
You see, does that make, I mean,
Sure.
it's that rate of occurrence happening at the same time is what I believe is causing the majority of the issues.
This has been a problem for a number of years, and I think it's about time that we address that sewer line.
Yeah, and
I think that's why you're here, Rick, is to ask the city to maybe take into consideration using some of that money to maybe Situ Farm sewer line.
Please.
Well, that would
Yes.
probably help a little bit.
And we do have we do have dollars budgeted to in situ form the sewer line out of a different funding source, and we could definitely look at that one. Again, it's a, lining that sewer line will not potentially fix that issue because that fixed that sewer line. It's all the other ones above it that also have issues. It's not a magic wand.
Right.
It's a program that you have to continually fund and implement.
But lining it will prevent rainwater from seeping into it if the street drains are
Disconnect.
disconnected.
And that's the other situation, which I believe they are. I don't think we have a street drain connection issue. I think what you have is, again, you have 110 miles of sewer line in town. Now, your pipe doesn't receive all that. But the small amount of water that's getting in during a rain event, the one sump pump combined with 50 other ones at that moment is what's causing the issue.
I understand it's how some pumps work, but
Yeah.
I think it's more the rainwater in 24 hours or 48 hours' time that create that issue, and that being a very low-level area.
Right, well, they're all pieces to the puzzle, and again, you know, you could slip line the sewer line, and I would be very confident that the risk would almost still exist. It doesn't really go down much, but it doesn't mean we won't do that.
I'm
It's,
just asking for a little priority on that sewer line down
yeah,
there.
no, totally understand.
Thank you for
Okay.
your time.
All right, thank you, Rick.
Questions?
Nope, thank you.
Was there anyone else? Okay,
Good timing.
Great.
can entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Patke, seconded by Sullentrup to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, we are adjourned.
Yes.
Does anybody need to run?
Nope, I think we can go.
John?
I'm gonna doze off in the stairs and we can talk to each other.
That's lovely.
It's plugged in.
Um,
I muted the computer, it's plugged in. Go.
See a dance team, Dan?
yeah, they're here.
Fine, it was
Oh, just do F9, sorry.
I thought, oh, you turned it off.
put a nice presentation.
F8, sorry. 8, yeah. Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay.
Darren,
Just
Darren,
Yes, sir.
are you gonna send that, the findings that you just talked about to us?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll get you a copy.
I can,
Nope, you missed it, you missed out.
No more barriers. I don't feel like
Oh, the salary? Yes,
what?
I will. I can do that.
I mean, if you'd rather meet, we can chat about it.
Nope, but either way, but I can get out to either one.
Thank you.
It's pretty, pretty decent. Everything I'm getting. What we're gonna do. Now, it's kind of based on
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Just gotta fix it.
I did
sales
too.
tax that we,
There was a lot of all this, I hated, but
special sales tax we get for citizens. You found it. Is enhancing some of those projects.
Well, you had Google.
Like,
I know.
put more funding towards broadband, also paying for the filtration system in the school.
Proclamation.
We spent on, but, you know, we're
The mic.
enhancing that and then paying employees like that were on the front lines, paying them a one-time $1,200 fee, and then
Oh, he's sharing.
weren't on the front line so much, like $600, and then part-time
Ready?
free.
Are you ready?
One time.
All right, I think we are.
That's nice.
Mark Wessels.
Huh?
Where did Mark go?
Oh, yeah.
Are we ready?
Yep.
Positive.
Sit down, chief.
Book him, Daniel.
What's that?
Georgia Soccer
I don't know
just
which,
won 7-0, or 7-3. Yeah, it was a great game.
Okay, should we go ahead and call the meeting to order, please?
Great game.
Regular meeting of Washington, Missouri City Council, Monday, May 17th, 2021, 7:02 PM. Heidrich?
Here.
Holtmeyer?
Here.
Patke?
Here.
Pettit?
Here.
Reed?
Here.
Scornia?
Here.
Sullentrup?
Yes.
Wessels?
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will all the council members answer if they have or have not read the minutes of the council meeting dated May 3rd, 2021? Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Patke?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Reed?
Here.
Scornia?
Yes.
Sullentrup?
Yes.
Wessels?
Aye.
Having read the minutes, are there any questions or comments?
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Holtmeyer, seconded by Heidrich, to approve the minutes from our last meeting dated May 3rd, 2021. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the minutes. Thank you.
Approval and adjustment of agenda, including consent agenda. You have the final pay request, Austin Peters Group, Inc., liquor license renewals, liquor license application, and you also have a blighter item in front of you. It's for a liquor license application. It's the Sirens Hotel LLC, doing business as River Sirens Hotel.
Okay, are there any questions or comments?
In the agenda, is this something different?
This,
The Sirens Hotel is.
It's a blotter item
It's a blotter
tonight that
item. It wasn't added to the
It
original
wasn't
agenda.
on the original agenda, so.
It wasn't included in your
it's
packet.
on your paper.
It's on paper.
But it's on the packet.
He's thinking that it's in this letter.
We read it.
It's not in there.
It's not in there. It should be under item I, or 1C.
It is.
Only question I have is for Mark, and I don't know how it works, but
Is it in there?
apparently they don't have any employees at this place. It's all under a card.
Correct.
So how does this work for not having an employee to serve the alcohol?
There would have to be somebody there to sell alcohol.
Okay. I was kind of confused on how this works.
Yeah, you can't,
Jeff, it is in there. It's in there.
Yeah, page 19 is the same thing. Okay, I
I
know it's
just
not
seen it.
different.
I got it.
Okay,
It is in there.
It is in there.
Okay.
Scratch.
I read it.
There we go.
Okay,
Do it twice.
they'll for sure get it.
Yeah.
Well, my concern was if somebody had to be there to serve alcohol, and do they have somebody there to do that?
there would have to be.
Okay.
Okay, are there any other questions regarding the consent agenda?
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Holtmeyer, seconded by Patke, to approve the items on the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the items. Thank you.
Priority items, Certificate of Appreciation, Joe Thatcher.
Yep. Well, I don't know. I think he knew that you were going to read it.
Good there.
Nope, sorry.
Right here, right, chief? Yep. I got them all right here. You just want to go through the photos?
Okay, did you want to do a little introduction, or you want me to go ahead?
I can do the introduction.
Or just,
So, in 2018, we didn't buy, received a
There you go.
military surplus Humvee from the government. Didn't cost us anything. You can imagine that thing as being tan, desert tan. The wheels were worn out, the siding, the wooden siding was kind of dilapidated. It had canvas doors, I believe a canvas top. Needed some engine work. So we budgeted money 2019, early 2019, we got some things fixed up. We went to Mr. Joe Thacker here at Midwest Military Equipment. He helped us out a lot. More than a lot, he donated a lot of things. Helped with the doors, some work on different mechanics that needed to be fixed. So the pictures you got there are, and he also painted it. Now, the Four Rivers Body Shop painted it, but he went ahead and said, I'm going to make it even better, and did another coat. If you notice the emblem on top there, that is the City of Washington emblem, and you made that up.
Yep.
You made that, cut that out, and made it, so it's a very, much of an artist there. So this is what we have now. We use it for, of course, weather events. We use it for hauling items. We use it to take evidence to the dump or wherever we need it to go. We use it for caged animals. We use it in hauling during the fair, groups of outside officers from the state police department to the fair and back. We use it on patrol when we have to even. But Mr. Joe Thatcher and Midwest Military Equipment did a lot of work and donated all that work to make that vehicle look the way it does today, and it looks fabulous. So we want to express our appreciation of that to him tonight.
well, thank you, Joe. Yeah, so they were very proud of that when we got it back, I know, and I happened to be, I I guess in the parking lot one day, and someone stopped me and said, "Hey, come look." So anyway, and I was very impressed. Little did I know that it was you who had done all that. So anyway, so you really did put a lot of effort into it and a lot of extra details and things like that. So anyway, well, it sounds like they're getting good use out of it. So to show our appreciation, we have a certificate of appreciation for you this evening. And I'll go ahead and read it. And so it says, whereas Joe Thatcher of Midwest Military Equipment, LLC, generously donated his time, talent, and resources in renovating the City of Washington Police Department Humvee, which was acquired in 2018 through the Department of Defense Surplus Property Program. And whereas said donation included painting, discount on parts and labor, and a special designed grill with the Washington Police Department logo. Now therefore I, Sandy Lucy, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor, and on behalf of our governing body and all our citizens, do hereby tender this certificate of appreciation to extend a heartfelt thank you and express warm appreciation to Joe Thatcher for his contribution to the City of Washington Police Department. Signed, Sandy Lucy, Mayor. So there you go.
Thank you. You got a lot on your agenda today.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Joe.
It's not been used.
The Certificate of Appreciation, Four Rivers Career Center Building Trade Class.
Robinson School, or the
Building.
director of Four Rivers. Director of Four Rivers, correct. So, we have the shooting range, and we budgeted something every year to improve the shooting range. So one year was a pavilion. The first year, even though COVID, if you show the next slide, we see the pavilion. This is the finished pavilion.
Wow.
They did a fantastic job. Couldn't ask for a better one. It's professionally done, in my opinion, and you couldn't get anything out of anybody better, any other carpenter or anything else. So we again want to express our appreciation to the class and the school district for donating the time and the talents of the students to help put that together and set it up for us and for the city.
Looks like we've got somebody do our 3 pavilions at the park now.
Don't think I didn't ask Wayne.
It'd be a good project. Okay, so Andy, you want to come a little closer? Okay.
Stonework.
So Andy, we have a certificate of appreciation. Whereas the Four Rivers Career Center Building Trades class generously donated time, talent, and labor to the City of Washington Police Department. And whereas said donation was construction of a pavilion at the City of Washington Police Department shooting range from materials provided, and is exemplary in its construction and a true example of the skills the students of the Four Rivers Career Center Building Trades class have developed. Now therefore I, Sandy Lucy, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor, and on behalf of our governing body and all our citizens, do hereby tender this certificate of appreciation to extend a heartfelt thank you and express warm appreciation to Four Rivers Career Center Building Trades class for its contribution to the City of Washington Police Department. Signed, Sandy Lucy, Mayor.
Thank you. We really appreciate this, and I won't take too long. I just wanted you to know that when you talk about kids these days, you know, all the negative stereotypes, they said the same thing back when Mark was a kid, right? So I just want to express that these kids did a great job, not only the building trades kids or even the kids that painted the Humvee. We graduated 364 kids this year. As I sit on 353, the Chamber of Commerce Board, my goal is to have that economic impact, try to provide these opportunities for kids to be the next Washington people. So again, we appreciate it. We appreciate live work like this. It's that investment into our kids that allows our kids to be vetted into our community and lets them stay and be an active part. So they truly appreciate that. Wonderful group of kids. Even though they've got 8 more days with us, we're excited to start next school year and continue the relationship. So thank you again for all you do and then providing us this opportunity as well.
And we thought, how are we going to reward the students? So we're giving them a little pizza party for the guys that built it.
They like that, so thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
You giving them a what?
Food. And teenagers.
Chief,
Mayor's
did you say get out
presenta-
of jail free card?
I could make one, I don't know how good it is.
Pardon me? Mia, yes. Yep, I heard you.
Okay.
Mayor's presentations, appointments, and reappointments. Proclamation, St. Francis Borgia Regional High School, Missouri Dance Team Championship.
So anyway, so we'll take a photo. Do you have folks taking photos? Okay, so, and we will remove the mask at photo time, like we did the last time. How's that sound? Okay? So we have a mayor's proclamation, City of Washington, Missouri, St. Francis Borgia Regional High School, Missouri Dance Team Championship 2021. Whereas the Missouri Dance Team Association, MDTA, is dedicated to advancing dance teams in the state of Missouri to a higher level in their actions on the court and field, in the classroom, and within their community. And whereas the Starry Nights dance team demonstrates outstanding technique, performance, and teamwork while promoting school spirit and sportsmanship, while supporting all teams to make a commitment to excellence while maintaining high academic standards. And whereas the Starry Nights dance team competed in the Missouri Dance Team Association statewide competition and won the overall Division II title while also placing first in the Class 2A Palm and Precision Dance categories. And whereas the dance team competed for and won first place precision dance and palm at invitationals in Farmington and Fort Zumwalt and at the virtual St. Charles Classic with a history of winning 12 dance team championships. And whereas special commendation is due to squad members and coaches. Team members are seniors Alicia Baylord, Sophie Helm, Maria Eckelkamp, and Kenzie Huck. Juniors Gabby Helm and Cora Regal. Sophomores Sydney Herr and Elena Rembush. Freshmen Kayla Copeland, Mia Jacobson, Mariah Foss, and Lainey Kampschrader. Coaches are head coach Megan Wunderlich and assistant coach Kayla Eckelkamp. Now therefore I, Sandy Lucy, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Washington, and on behalf of the entire city council, hereby congratulate you on your first place title and extend this expression of our pride in your accomplishment and our appreciation for the notable publicity you have brought to our community by your good sportsmanship and inspired team play. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the seal of the city of Washington, Missouri, this 17th day of May, 2021. Signed, Sandy Lucy, Mayor. So, very good.
pictures.
Dance.
That'll be good pictures. Nice.
Thank you. Thanks, girl.
Proclamation celebrating Terry Buttermeyer during EMS Week.
Wow.
Terry. I'm good. Congratulations on your retirement. Oh, check out this tie. Oh, my goodness. It's pretty nice. Okay, so as many of you know Terry, Terry has been with our ambulance service for quite a long time, and he has done an outstanding job during those years. And in doing the research for the proclamation, we found out some of the dates and things that you have done in the past, and certainly has taken our ambulance service to a new level during his tenure. So tonight we want to honor him, and this is National EMS Week. This week is National EMS Week, so it's a good time to honor Terry during that. So we have a mayor's proclamation, City of Washington, Missouri, celebrating Terry Buttermeyer during National EMS Week, May 16 through 22, 2021. And whereas in 1974, President Gerald Ford authorized EMS Week to celebrate EMS practitioners and the important work they do in our nation's communities. And whereas emergency medical services is a vital public service, and the emergency medical services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas Terry Buttermeyer began working for the city ambulance service as a volunteer in 1973 and became an official paramedic in 1977. He was hired by the City of Washington as the ambulance coordinator in 1978. And whereas the Washington Ambulance District was formed and finalized in 1981, and today Terry oversees 20 full-time employees, 21 part-time employees, 6 ambulances, and numerous other medical emergency equipment, which are housed at 2 stations. In 2020, the Washington Ambulance District participated in 3,165 calls. Wow. And whereas the City of Washington desires to recognize and express its sincerest gratitude to Terry Buttermeyer, who has so unselfishly given of his time and efforts in service to the public with his many years of involvement, and who has done so with a caring heart and a thoughtful mind. Now therefore I, Sandy Lucy, Mayor of the City of Washington, do hereby proclaim the week of 16 through 22, 2021 as National EMS Week and celebrate Terry Buttermeyer for his dedication, enthusiasm, and outstanding public service given to the Washington community and the Washington Area Ambulance District. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the seal of the City of Washington, Missouri, this 17th day of May, 2021. Signed, Sandy Lucy, Mayor. Okay, do you want to say a few words?
I will.
All right.
I know you have a long agenda. I'll be brief. Got one of our former guys sitting up there on the area with you guys. It all started back in '73, and the city council was involved in getting me here. Frank Lohmeyer was the one on the council at the time, and Dennis Hellebush, one of our current board of directors, was on the city council when the job was offered to me. It's been a long ride. It's been a good ride. It's a team that did this. It's not me. It's taken, I could never name all the people that have been involved all these years to take it where it is, and we've got it in good hands to take over for me. And Chief Clifton was unable to be here tonight due to a death in the family. So I appreciate this, and I'm looking forward to a little more time for myself. So, thank you.
Proclamation, National Public Works Week.
Public Works guy?
Who are these guys?
Okay, so it's, okay, this way a little bit. Okay. All right.
Oh, Larry Curly.
Which is which?
So these are the guys who deal with our public works. And certainly, there's always something, and as Bernie always said, out of sight, out of mind, and, we don't ever get to see those things until something raises its head or something like that. So anyway, you guys have great teams around you, so that's good. But it is National Public Works Week. So we have a proclamation, Mayor's Proclamation, City of Washington, Missouri, National Public Works Week, May 16 through 22, 2021. Whereas public works employees focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of our residents, public business leaders, and civic organizations in the City of Washington. And whereas infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works employees who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting transportation, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our residents. And whereas it is in the public interest for our residents, business leaders, and civic organizations to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in the community. And whereas the American Public Works Association has celebrated the annual National Public Works Week since 1960, and this year's theme is Stronger Together. Now therefore I, Sandy Lucy, Mayor of the City of Washington, do hereby proclaim the week of May 16 through May 22nd, 2021 as National Public Works Week in the City of Washington, and during this 61st Annual National Public Works Week, I call upon all residents, business leaders, and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing and maintaining our public works infrastructure, and to recognize the contributions which public works employees make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the seal of the City of Washington, Missouri, this 17th day of May, 2021. Signed, Sandy Lucy, Mayor. So.
Yeah, just real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, I really didn't even know this was on the agenda, but I appreciate that. You know, the theme Stronger Together, I think, is probably the biggest thing that we try to preach. You know, when I got here, you know, that was a big thing that we all work together as a team. And I think, you know, I know Kevin and Tony and everyone kind of latched onto that. And I think it shows every single day. You know, we try to get to issues as fast as we can. We try to resolve them. We try to fix them moving forward, you know, from sewer lines to water to streets to everything we do. And Stronger Together, I think, is something I take a lot of pride in working together with these guys. So I appreciate it.
And I just really want to say, this really goes out to the employees.
Yeah.
They're the ones that work hardest. If it wasn't for them, none of us would be here. So it just really goes to those guys and not so much us. We're just the carriers of this to them. So it's really to those guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Proclamation, Bicycle Safety Week.
Okay, that's
You gonna
fine.
put him to work?
Yeah.
Well, hello, Miss Julie.
He might charge you for that.
Okay. Okay, so it's National Bicycle Safety Week, and every year we have the Bicycle Rodeo, which is this coming Saturday. Are you going to talk a little bit about that when you get to this? Okay, very good. All right. So tonight, we have a mayor's proclamation to the City of Washington, Missouri, Bicycle Safety Week, May 17 through 23rd, 2021. Whereas the bicycle is an economical, healthy, convenient, and environmentally sound form of transportation and an excellent tool for recreation and enjoyment of the City of Washington's civic beauty, scenic beauty. I've read too many. Scenic beauty. Whereas millions of Missourians will experience the joys of bicycling during the month of May through educational programs, races, commuting events, trail work days, helmet promotion, charity events, or just getting out and going for a ride. And whereas creating bicycle-friendly communities has been shown to improve citizens' health, well-being, and quality of life, to boost community spirit, to improve traffic safety, and to reduce pollution and congestion. And whereas education starting at a young age of all would-be cyclists and motorists as to the proper and safe operation of bicycles and motor vehicles is important to ensure the safety and comfort of all users. And whereas the Washington Police Department, together with members of the community, will host the 45th Annual Bicycle Safety Rodeo on May 22, 2021, to promote greater public awareness of bicycle operation and safety education in an effort to reduce collisions, injuries, and fatalities, and improve health and safety for everyone on the road. And now, therefore, in recognition that the health, safety, and welfare of its residents are of the most valuable asset of any city, I, Sandy Lucy, Mayor, proclaim May 17 to 23, 2021 as Bicycle Safety Week in the City of Washington, and encourage all residents to enjoy the benefits of bicycling, recognize the importance of bicycle safety, and be more aware of cyclists on our streets. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the seal of the City of Washington, Missouri, this 17th day of May, 2021, signed Sandy Lucy, Mayor. So, there you go.
Okay, this is really our 46th Bicycle Safety Rodeo. It would have been 47, but a little thing called COVID canceled that out last year. So the Bicycle Safety Rodeo, in a nutshell, is for kids, for the skill stations is 5 through 13. The 5-year-olds don't compete against the 13-year-olds. There's 3 different groups. We give trophies. We give bikes away. This costs the kids nothing. We have so many donors, from bikes to giveaways, and we give pizza and hot dogs, and we have a helicopter landing this year again, all different things. And we also, the police department at one time, a couple years ago, made a safety town, which all the younger ones, 5 and under, can go through, and they can also win a bike or and they're with their parents. So we expect about, fingers crossed, about 100 kids, which 100 kids on a bike is like 500 kids. So that's this Saturday, if you guys want to come out and just look and see what we do. Julie has been my cohort in crime for I don't know how many years. I've done it from the very beginning. When you say 46 years, that sounds out loud, that's a lot. So I started it with one of my other friends, Bob Camper. We always did it for the Optimist Club. They were always with us in this. That's part of their, I don't know what you'd call it.
It's part of our mission.
Yes.
That we support. That's one of our projects under Optimist
So we've done it for quite a while. When I retire, I hope to keep doing it because it's one of my favorite things to do. So hopefully we can continue doing it at least till 50 years. So thanks, guys, for all your support.
I just want to say really quickly, it was one of my favorite events as a child.
Oh my
so
gosh,
thank
that
you
makes
for
me
doing
feel
that
really old.
all of these years. I can't imagine committing to anything for 47 years, but thank you.
Well, great, but now I really feel old. Thanks, everybody.
I love that day.
I think I'm gonna get Jeff and Penny down.
Yeah. 100
Yeah, especially Penny.
Library Board of Trustees reappointment.
Okay, tonight in your packet is a reappointment to the Library Board of Trustees, and that would be Katie Schonartz. Her term would be ending in June of 2024. Any questions or comments?
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Patke, seconded by Pettit, to approve the reappointment of Katie Schonartz to the Library Board of Trustees. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the reappointment. Thank you.
Police Department reappointments.
Oh, you did?
It's my first house.
Council, I have reappointments tonight for you, 5 officers.
Oh, yeah.
All 5 are command staff officers. You have Captain Jim Armstrong, Sergeant Joe Kapustka, Lieutenant Daryl Balladeer, Detective Sergeant Steven Seitz, and Sergeant Joseph Renkemeyer. They complement me in my leadership. Without them, I couldn't get a lot of things done. I rely on them to make sure things run well within the department. They're wonderful examples of service to the community and commitment. We all work as a team. We all discuss things as a team. We have our differences, but we work things out, but ultimately I get to say what goes. So. But I enjoy their input and what they suggest to me, because I can change my mind. So. But they have been fabulous for many years. They've all served a long time with us. And I'm sure they will continue to, because they're committed to this community and the city and the service they do. I just praise them for the guardians that they are and the warriors they have to be at the time they have to be a warrior. So, thank you. I
Okay.
recommend you reappoint.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Patke, seconded by Heidrich, to approve the reappointments of Captain Jim Armstrong, Sergeant Joe Kapuska, Lieutenant Daryl Balladeer, Detective Sergeant Steven Seitz, and Sergeant Joe Renkemeyer. And all those would be for a 1-year term.
Yes.
As usual. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the reappointments. Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
And Chief, I just want to say that your team did a great job with the memorial service last Friday. That was very, very nice. So
Special recognition to Officer Jason Gibson, who is our department chaplain.
he just
First
did
time, and he was nervous, but he did a wonderful job.
he did a marvelous job. Oh my gosh, it was great. So thank you.
Public hearings, special use permit 312 High Street Vacation Rental.
Okay, Sal?
All right. On your agenda tonight is a request for a special use permit for another short-term lodging permit. As you are aware, I'm sure, anytime anyone requests to do a vacation dwelling, or what is commonly referred to as an Airbnb, If they are outside of the downtown zoning or the C2 overlay, they have to get a special use permit to do so. So that means anything less than 30 days rental, they have to go through this approval outside of that district. So this particular request is for 312 High Street here. Let me zoom out here. You can kind of see it's 3rd and High, so it's halfway through the block here, just south of 3rd Street, and it does have alley access to the rear. The property is zoned R2 overlay, which means it allows for single-family and two-family dwellings. There are a number of two-family properties in the area that do allow rentals, but most of them are longer than monthly, so they're long-term leases. They are requesting, like I said, to use this as a vacation dwelling. Commonly as we get these are not detrimental to the surrounding properties, are still residential in use. They normally have guests for the weekends, and then sometimes a lot of our businesses will use them for, once a week. They'll have long-term contracts where they'll come in the same time every month. And so we did recommend approval of this. Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed it last week, and it did pass unanimously. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Are they gonna be living in it also, or just it?
Nope.
Strictly vacation?
Strictly rental. It's a 2-bedroom home. So it's not there's not 2 units there. It's a 2-bedroom home, and they're not renting out 1 bedroom. It's renting out the house. So, and just like all the other ones, they'll have to do an annual inspection. So when their business license expires every year, they have to get another inspection done to make sure nothing's been broken or the occupancy rules haven't been broken, and then they have to sign up for the bed tax, obviously, as well.
So if this homeowner actually wanted to just rent this property out normal, they wouldn't have to come here for this?
Correct, yeah,
But
we
in
don't.
order to do this and have different tenants every
Correct.
week or month is the only reason they have to have a special.
Anytime it's less than 30
Short term.
days.
Anytime it's what?
Less than 30 days.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from council members?
Thank you.
Okay, it is a public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to address the council on this issue? Please come forward and give us your name and address.
My name is Ron Snelson. I live at 325 High Street, catty corner from the property. And a couple of questions. How many visitors do we have annually here in Washington? Do we know?
Probably not.
I used to know that.
I know last week.
We
at
would
the-
know that if Emily was here.
Yeah.
Emily would be able to tell us that, our
Um,
tourism director.
I shouldn't guess. I want to say it was hotels and B&Bs and so forth all together. It's a considerable number.
Is this house, as a vacation home, is it considered the same as a B&B?
Yes, I mean,
In many ways.
it's a short-term rental.
It's a short-term rental.
Just like a B&B, yes.
Okay, well, a B&B has a residence that lives there.
Sometimes, not always.
Okay. Do any of you have a vacation home in your neighborhood?
I do.
Yeah.
You do?
Yep.
Last week, I was not able to hear the representative for the owner, so I didn't understand what they were going to do to improve this property. Has anyone seen this piece of property other than the pictures?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't rent it.
Used to live there.
Yeah.
I did too.
I used to own it.
Did you? Do we know what their improvements are going to be?
Well, we will know shortly this evening because the owner is here tonight.
Good.
And so she will, I'm sure, be addressing the group.
We're very interested in that. And there, as I understand, there is an ordinance, and this is hearsay, but there is an ordinance in the city that you cannot park your car in front of a house unless you live there or rent there monthly. You can't come in and,
That's correct.
is that
But I
correct?
think it's at night, after
10 o'clock.
overnight.
That's right.
10 o'clock.
It's only nighttime, but you're correct.
After 10 o'clock, it can't be there.
Correct.
Correct.
So how do we?
If we receive a complaint.
Yes.
Oh, okay. And who is going, and hopefully the owner can answer this, who is going to do the background checks on the people that come in? Or will there be background checks? Is this strictly a tax-based revenue opportunity that the city is looking at? Or is this revenue-based for the city? I mean, there will be revenue come to the city for this. And we in our community and on High Street, we're a little concerned about property being made vacation homes and people coming and going. Are we going to have a motel? Or is it going to be, can we keep it from being a one-night rental?
Well, they can rent it anywhere up to 30 days.
Up to 30 days, but can they rent it for less than 3 days or 5 days?
Yeah.
Yes.
They can. So we have a motel.
Short-term rental.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Would anyone else like to address the council? Need your name and address.
Sure. My name is Angela Garland, and I own 312 High Street and lived in it for a short time. So I'd like to just address some of your concerns, because I appreciate that. As far as the improvements to the property, there needs to be a lot still before it's really rentable. So we're going to put a new porch on the front, make sure that the backyard looks good and the front yard looks good and the walk looks good. We're painting the entire exterior so it really looks warm and inviting. I'm on the Economic Vitality Committee for the City of Washington, and one of our jobs is to bring new business and visitors to the area. So I think that my daughter rented the house from us for a couple of years, and now she's living in Union. So we were deciding, is it a long-term rental? Do we do short-term rental? And because it was just perfect timing with what's going on with in Augusta, and I think the growth of the downtown market, and in wanting to encourage people to come and visit and stay for a little bit. So my ideal would be, of course, it would be a minimum of 3 days. We'd like to have a minimum of 3 days, but there may be business folks during the week, and then people coming into downtown Washington during the weekends. For the parking, I guess I'll have to clarify that. I don't think that there could be more than, the most that anyone could sleep there is 6, and that's if we had a pull-out couch, but there's one big bedroom and a teeny tiny bedroom, so it's going to be hard for very many people to be there. What else do we have? What other concerns? Okay.
Concerning the parking,
Yes.
if you are a resident and someone parks in front of your house after 10, you can file a complaint for them parking.
Okay.
So if they're parked in front of that residence, unless you're going to complain about them, that's
Right.
not a complaint.
So, and I think part of the instruction, so the companies that we will use is Vacation, VRBO, and Airbnb. And so they're very strict about background checks, getting their license. We get security deposits, damage waivers. So they, thank goodness, take care of a lot of that. And then my daughter also manages an Airbnb in Augusta. And so she'll help with taking the reservations and screening people and making sure we're not having crazy people come and rent. We don't want crazy people there. The other thing is that big garage that's in the back will not be accessible because my husband's shop is in there, so that will not, you know, we won't have, that will be locked up and still our private space back there. But anyway, anything else? Any other concerns?
Only parking in the front?
Yes, we don't want people parking in the alley. So, and then we will, in the instructions, it will be, this is where you get to park in front of our house only, so. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it, thank you.
Did council members have any questions or anything? Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you. Anyone else?
Just
Care
go in
to-
front of planning and zoning.
Yes.
9-0.
Last weekend, they voted to approve it. Unanimously, yes.
Any other discussion? Okay, so we'll need a motion to accept this item into the minutes.
Make a motion.
Make a motion.
You did, you second.
Oh, second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Sullentrup, seconded by Holtmeyer, to accept this item into the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Or your vote, you accepted the item.
An ordinance granting a special use permit to utilize 312 High Street as a vacation rental in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer. So this is the ordinance that follows the previous item. Any questions or comments? Okay.
An ordinance granting a special use permit to utilize 312 High Street as a vacation rental in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri. Pettit?
Yes.
Hydrich?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Wessels?
Aye.
Patke?
Yes.
Sullentrup?
Yes.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Reed?
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
Citizens' comments?
Is there anyone here who would like to address the council on any item that is not on the agenda? Okay.
Report of department heads, 2021-2022 MoDOT traffic safety grants.
Council, you have some paperwork for you with a couple letters. This is a grant we apply for every year. It's from Missouri Department of Transportation. It's actually 3 separate grants. One is for hazardous moving violation enforcement. That is a $6,000 grant with money for training in the tune of $1,500. And then a DWI enforcement grant for $4,000. Again, training is an additional $1,500, and then a youth alcohol enforcement for $5,000. Total of $18,000 in grant money. It is all 100% covered. It's given to us for officers to work each of those grants, and those officers that work the grants are paid time and a half, even if it's not time and a half on their paycheck. By the grant rules, they have to be paid time and a half to work it. So I'm requesting that you let us move forward with the grant. There is a sign sheet that needs to be signed by each council member to approve that. If you could sign that, we will get the grant. We get it every year.
Do we have that to pass around tonight?
You have it? If not, I'll give you a copy.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mark, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, I see that specifically the training on each of those, and it says, like for the others, it's for manpower. What does that mean? They get trained, say, in
No, manpower would be the money paid to the officers to work to go out in vehicles and work the grant. The training is to send them to conferences like the DWI conference or DRE conference, or the LETSAC, Law Enforcement Traffic Safety Commission conference. One is for the DWI Enforcement Conference, so they have additional training for officers. Those conferences are every year to get the newest laws, the newest training in how to develop.
But the actual manpower part is when they're actually doing their work that they do?
Manpower means when they're actually going out, they have to sign in timesheets and submit timesheets.
Chief, did you say, are these renewable? Like, do we apply for these year over year, or are they one time?
We have to apply for these
Okay.
year after year. We apply different amounts. We've applied for more. It gets to a point where officers get wore out. Can they work? But we need them to work.
Yeah.
We've also applied for equipment before on them, and I think we got a radar one year. Another year we got some other equipment.
So you actually determine each year what you're applying
Yes.
for, and you can vary it?
Yes.
Okay. That's awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? So we'll need to, a motion to approve the application.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sullentrup, seconded by Pettit, to approve the application for the 2122 MoDOT traffic safety grants. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the grant
Thank
or
you for the
the
approval,
authorization.
Chief, real quick,
Yes.
the cars that we got rid of and we got parked over
Yes.
there, how soon are we getting rid of those?
They all three have been sold, including the airport car.
Oh.
We're getting to the tune of $12,000 or somewhere thereabout for our patrol cars.
Total for all of them?
I think that's about the total for all of them. We sold three, I'm trying to remember, we sold 3 police cars, that's 12,000 plus 1,000 something for the airport car.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Ordinances and resolutions. An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a contract with KJU Inc., doing business as KJ Understall Construction Company, for the 2021 Main Park Sidewalk Project.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Patke, excuse me, Councilman Patke.
Good evening, Council. Before you in your packet, you'll see an ordinance for concrete sidewalks at Main Park for the new playground. And what we're trying to do here is connect to the new ADA sidewalk on Circle Drive. So at the corner of the existing or old pool house at the top of the hill there, connect there, run in front of the old pool building, across the front of that building, across the parking lot to the auditorium and to the main park pavilion, and then into the grass and over to the new, there's 3 playground pods over there, connect to those pods, those 3 pods, and then also the same thing, the existing walkway from Main Park's parking lot off 2nd Street, connects some short pieces of sidewalk there to the new playground pods. And so we bid this out. You can see the bids. The bids came in at $28,125 from KJU and then $32,375 from Rainier. The $28,125 is under budget. The budget for this project was $34,500, and that was for landscaping and concrete. So we'll still be able to plant some trees and things when we're finished. Kind of what it includes, like I said, the sidewalk in front of the old pool house, and then the ADA transition ramps to cross the parking lot, and then the new sidewalks into the park connecting the playgrounds. And it's kind of the final, almost like the final piece of the pool playground project, where we're connecting the nearby neighborhoods via sidewalk to the pool, and then up the hill to Main Park and to the playground. So,
They'd be doing that while the pool's open, I guess.
yeah, it would be sooner rather than later here. We have the site all graded right now, just kind of waiting on this to get going.
Okay, cool.
We talked about this last week in Parks, I know, but I was there yesterday, and now I'm looking at it. Maybe some of the sidewalks in between going to the playgrounds need to be wider than just a 36-inch sidewalk. You know what I mean? If someone has a stroller, they meet someone, then they're stepping off anyway. So there's some spots where around the bathrooms to the playground, you know, if it would be 6 foot wide and it would just kind of be a landing area, you know what I mean, going to the playground. You know what I'm saying? I don't really got a map, but just.
In the bid, we have in this bid for 5 foot sidewalk.
5 foot sidewalks, okay.
Yeah.
Again, maybe you can just see that there might be some spots where it could just even a little bit wider.
Yeah, and we have, we bid it out per square foot, so the maximum would be, we bid it between 1,500 and 2,500 square feet, so the maximum would be 2,800. And so I anticipate some money being left over, and we'll do a change order for that at the end. So I anticipate not spending $28,000 on sidewalk, but we allowed ourselves some wiggle room for things like that, and curves and bends and things like that.
Just be advantageous while we're doing it rather than try to add on later, that's all.
Any other comments? Okay.
I don't know if you're going to be leaving after council discussion, it's going to be after all these ordinances, but I'll just ask you right now, the busier the town's going to get in the park system and anywhere else, I've been approached by some people about the bathrooms not being open in the early mornings when they're walking around the lake. in downtown. Is that something you guys can look into and open them up a little sooner?
We're trying, we just changed our work hours. We bumped them back, or earlier, I should say, so we can get started on. In the summertime, we generally start earlier in the morning because it's hot, and two, to get the bathrooms open. So we just did that last week or 2 weeks ago. I can't remember
I got
exactly.
the call at 9:30 in the morning. They said the ones,
But I know we have a new guy doing some of them, so he's been a little bit slower than our normal, or than some of the other guys. So I have noticed that on the east side of town too. When I get in town before 8 o'clock, I've stopped a couple times in the last week or two, and they were still closed. So I'm looking into it.
okay.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a contract with KJU Inc., doing business as KJ Understall Construction Company for the 2001 Main Park Sidewalk Project. Pettit?
Yes.
Hydrich?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Wessels? Patke?
Yes.
Sullentrup?
Yes.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Reed?
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance amending Schedule 4, no parking at any time of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
Okay, good evening again, council. This ordinance amendment is for no parking, to add 2 no parking zones. One was at the request of Parks along South Lake Shore Drive from Grand Avenue to Veterans Drive. I think they had some complaints, some concerns about people parking in the grass along the roadway, and these all did go to traffic committee. But it would be labeled as no parking, or as an ordinance, no parking on both the north and the south side along that entire corridor. I think it functions as no parking for the majority of the time. There really is no curb and gutter in those things, but I know sometimes when it's busy up at the soccer area that there's some issues, I think, there. So this would actually label those as no parking. The second location would be a removal of no parking along High Street just to the south of Aquatic Circle Drive. There's an area about 85 feet that we could not figure out why it existed in the first place. This would give approximately 3 more on-street parking stalls next to the pool. And it also would allow Wayne to have better visibility to their signage in the park system. So it's in front of area that we own.
Is it right in front of the pool?
It's not right in front of.
It's in front of that grass area.
Yeah,
I'm
that
looking
we-
at this. It's in front of that grass area that.
Yeah, I should have.
The city at one time looked at it realigning High Street, I think, a little bit further to the south.
Okay.
And I remember that seemed to be a hot button issue, I think, back in the day in that neighborhood.
But
Well, a long, long time ago, a child was hit there crossing the street. So I don't know how long it had been no parking. But remember when that ice cream shop was across the
Yes.
street?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's how long ago it was. It might not have been that, but
okay.
not, those issues are long gone.
Okay. So that's the area that would actually be removed. And then Aquatic Circle Drive would be added from High Street to State Street. Currently, I guess you could park there. Well, you couldn't today because it's fenced off. But that roadway corridor was limited to 26 foot. It is a narrow drive. It was done that by plan, by design, to keep it at 26 foot, keep speeds down, and those type of things. It does now have curb and gutter on both sides, so it will be now labeled as no parking as you go adjacent to the new pool. And again, that's from High Street to State Street. So we were trying to get these things in front of you all so we can get the signs up before the pool opened up.
John, do you know when, you're talking about the soccer issue over there?
Yes.
Do you know when that pavilion will be removed? They were talking about adding parking there, weren't they?
I have to defer.
Plan.
I don't.
That is the plan.
Yeah.
We're hoping to do it this summer in preparation for the fall soccer team, or soccer season, I should say. So sooner rather than later. Right now, I'm juggling some of these projects around due to the pavilion and the lag time on steel and things like that, so.
I understand.
We keep taking parking spots away, and we have a parking problem.
Yeah. Well, that's what, I know that was discussed at traffic. They were saying, we're gonna take some away, but we're giving some back, and I was just wondering, when is that gonna happen? But if it's before soccer season, you're good, yeah.
Okay, anything else? All right.
An ordinance amending Schedule 4, no parking at any time of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri. Pettit?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Wessels?
Aye.
Patke?
Yes.
Sullentrup? Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Reed?
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance amending the 2021 budget of the City of Washington, Missouri.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
This is to, as you're aware, we acquired some property for the potential for a future water tank out on South Point Road. That project was within your capital improvement sales tax fund, slated for, I think, 2024. But due to the fact that we needed to go ahead and move on this property, we noticed that we did not have a budget amendment to bump this dollar amount just for the purchase of that property for this budget year. So you have a budget amendment to move those funds from that line item for that amount of $56,014.25.
Any questions or
Any other
comments?
piece will go up for sale, correct?
Excuse me?
Any other piece will go up for sale?
It can. We still have to, there's some other things that we're going to need to secure, i.e. a future fire station and et cetera. So we want to keep all those options open.
Any other questions, comments? Okay.
An ordinance amending the 2021 budget of the City of Washington, Missouri. Pettit?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Wessels?
Aye.
Patke?
Yes.
Sullentrup? Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Reed?
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance approving the final plat of Hanover Place, Plat 2 in the City of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri.
Patke.
Introduced by Councilman Patke.
All right, this is just the final plat for Hanover Place Edition. That was the preliminary plat we looked at just a few weeks ago in rezoning here on 9th Street. If you remember, they added 2 lots so they could put a stub in this portion to the west. So this is the plat that was submitted. They are going to be extending improvements to the western boundary, and they did submit a estimate and an escrow for that, a performance agreement to say, yes, we'll put the improvements for water, sewer, pavement, all the way to that point. So it matches what we required a couple weeks ago, and so we are recommending approval, and as soon as it's approved, they'll take us to the county to get recorded.
Any questions or comments? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Sal.
An ordinance approving the final plat of Hanover Place, Plat 2 in the City of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri. Pettit?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Wessels?
Aye.
Patke?
Yes.
Sullentrup? Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Reed?
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Brennan Cordray.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer. Do you want to introduce this whole list
I
of things
will.
for us, please?
Yes, the next
Okay.
35 ordinances, an hour of your life, will be dedicated to, these are easement deeds with the property owners along Fair Street. If you recall, about a year ago, actually it wasn't quite that long ago, the engineering department identified Fair Street as a street that would be milled and overlaid. With the pool project going on and the entire corridor from the dead end of Fair Street to Esther Drive, there exists various locations where there's sidewalks that exist, sidewalks that don't exist, they're not ADA compliant. Quite frankly, it's kind of a mess. So we were looking at different ways. Do we remove the sidewalks, just do not put something back in? Do we finish off some of these blocks? You know, what's the correct path to move forward? So last fall, we actually went door to door and just started talking to homeowners and just kind of seeing what would be, what they would be excited about. Sidewalks tend to be a contentious item. People want them, people don't want them. It's kind of all over the board. So these 35 property owners that live across there saw this as a benefit to them in connecting, you know, their individual homes, again, with the concept of connecting communities or subdivisions, you know, to public facilities. And we thought, what a better way to do that than connect it to the new park. So This is actually, again, 1 hour of your life, but this actually just, it's your citizens coming together for a really good project. And these are finally the easements and things to get that done. Once we get these approved and recorded, this will kind of be the last piece of the puzzle for the Fair Street, 4th Street project. That'll have new sidewalks, new curb and gutter, and then some various other paving projects later this summer. So it's kind of a culmination of a lot of things, but sit back and enjoy the reading, I guess.
We're ever gonna fix Boone Street?
What's that?
We're ever gonna fix Boone Street?
Fix Boone Street. Are we ever going to fix Boone Street?
We dug up the street all the way to Fifth Street, all the way to Third Street, patched it.
Boone Street has been repaired. The actual 3rd Street portion?
No, it's Boone Street.
Yeah, it's been repaired.
I'm gonna take a look at it.
Yeah, we don't have a paver in the fleet, so when we have large paving chunks like that, we do have to hand place it, and it does get a little wavy at times. Yeah, that's a fact.
I
But,
thought it was just a repair. That's how
What's
bad
that?
it looked. I thought it was a repair, that's how bad it looks.
Yeah, well, I'll take a look at it again. But, yeah, if we need to get a paver or a contractor up there to look at it, I can definitely do that. I just,
And as far as Fair Street, what happens with the retaining walls on the east side?
they don't get touched.
Okay.
We're purposely going on the west side to stay away from those retaining walls.
Oh, okay.
And that sidewalk will meander. There's a location, if you go from 3rd, is it 3rd or 2nd? There's a block there where the right-of-way is pretty narrow. It'll actually meander back to the east and then go back and meander back over. So it does jog through there a little bit. That's only a 45-foot right-of-way. It's pretty narrow. So this will be a 48-inch sidewalk, 88 minimum to get through there. So, but we try to stay away from some of those retaining walls, things that wouldn't necessarily be a positive for the project.
John-
But I will look at Boone Street, though, yeah.
John, what is, and this is curiosity, why are 28 of them construction temporary easements and 7 of them are quit deeds? What was the difference there?
We had to, some of the construction, in order to get the grades to work out on some of the driveways, we actually have to cut a panel of concrete out of their driveway outside, so it's a temporary construction easement. We're not acquiring their property. Some of these are quitclaim deeds, acquire a foot, 2 foot of that right-of-way. So it just varies.
Oh, it's just where you needed to acquire?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay,
we don't,
all right.
and they donated all these, so there was no,
All right.
no money that was
Yeah, I saw that.
changed hands.
Yeah, thank you.
So, and the goal there is we don't want to acquire more than we absolutely need, so.
Okay, any other questions?
Everyone was on board.
Everyone was, well, everyone who this was affected was on board, yes.
Okay.
I don't want to speak for everyone because I think there's a few we didn't get a hold of. But I would think that if you live along a corridor and then you were on the opposite side where you didn't have the sidewalk in front of your home, a sidewalk in a new street would be welcoming to you. But to say that I spoke to all of them on both sides, I can't promise you that. Just the ones that we had to acquire something from.
Okay.
Okay. So that takes care of
The next 35.
the next 35 ordinances, all right?
We
So-
actually timed it this morning.
Yeah, let's see, let's
It
look at
won't,
the
it won't,
clock.
shouldn't take you an entire hour unless you have hiccups along the way.
Speed read.
Okay, ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the city of Washington, Missouri and Brendan Cordroy.
Pettit.
Pettit.
Yes.
Heidrich. Scornia. Wessels. Patke.
Yes.
Solentrop.
Aye.
Holtmeyer. Reed.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the city of Washington, Missouri and Jeremy Oshie.
Solentrop.
Introduced by Councilman Solentrep. Go on.
Roll 'em.
Okay. An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the city of Washington, Missouri and Jeremy Oshie. Pettit.
Yes.
Heidrich.
Aye.
Scornia.
Yes.
Wessels.
Aye.
Patke.
Yes.
Solentrop.
Aye.
Holtmeyer.
Aye.
Reed.
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the city of Washington, Missouri and Michael Allen Yenzer Revocable Living Trust under agreement dated October 19th, 1999.
Solentrop.
Introduced by Councilman Solentrep.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Michael Allen Yenzer Revocable Living Trust under agreement dated October 19th, 1999. Pettit?
Yes.
Heidrich? Scornia?
Yes.
Wessels? Patke?
Yes.
Solentrop? Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Reed?
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Darwin V. Oberndorfer and Deborah S. Oberndorfer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Darwin V. Oberndorfer and Deborah S. Oberndorfer. Pettit?
Yes.
Heidrich? Scornia?
Yes.
Wessels? Patke?
Yes.
Solentrop? Holtmeyer? Reed?
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Judith H. Wilt.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Judith H. Wilt. Pettit?
Yes.
Heidrich? Scornia?
Yes.
Wessels? Patke?
Yes.
Solentrop? Holtmeyer? Reed?
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a quitclaim deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Judith H. Wilt.
Solentrop.
Introduced by Councilman Solentrop.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a quitclaim deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Judith H. Wilt. Pettit?
Yes.
Heidrich? Scornia?
Yes.
Wessels? Patke? Solentrop?
Yes.
Holtmeyer? Reed?
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri, Larry Munzik and Deborah Ann Helsher.
Patke.
Introduced by Councilman Patke.
Let's go.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Larry Munzik and Deborah Ann Helsher. Pettit?
Yes.
Heidrich? Scornia?
Yes.
Wessels?
Aye.
Patke?
Yes.
Solentrop? Holtmeyer? Reed?
Reed? Yeah.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a quitclaim deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Larry Munzik and Deborah Ann Helsher.
Patke.
Introduced by Councilman Patke.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a quitclaim deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Larry Munzik and Deborah Ann Helsher. Pettit?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Wessels?
Aye.
Patke?
Yep.
Solentrop? Holtmeyer? Reed?
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Roderick Whitner.
Patke.
Introduced by Councilman Patke.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Roderick Whitner. Pettit?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Wessels?
Aye.
Patke?
Yes.
Solentrop? Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Reed?
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a quitclaim deed by and in between the City of Washington, Missouri and Roderick Whitner.
Patke.
Introduced by Councilman Patke.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a quitclaim deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Roderick Whitner. Pettit?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Wessels? Patke?
Yes.
Yes.
Solentrop?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Reed?
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and LZ Harvey.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and LZ Harvey. Pettit?
Yes.
Heidrich? Scornia?
Yes.
Wessels?
Aye.
Patke?
Yes.
Solentrop? Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Reed?
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a quitclaim deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and LZ Harvey.
Pettit.
Introduced by Councilwoman Pettit.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a quitclaim deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and LZ Harvey. Pettit?
Yes.
Heidrich? Scornia?
Yes.
Wessels? Pat King?
Yes.
Solentrop? Holtmeyer? Reed?
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri, Shirley Coulter, Keith Coulter, and Michael Coulter.
Reed.
Introduced by Councilman Reed.
Everybody in it.
He jumped in there.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri, Shirley Coulter, Keith Coulter, and Michael Coulter. Pettit?
Yes.
Heidrich? Scornia?
Yes.
Wessels? Patke?
Yes.
Solentrop?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Reed,
Reed?
Yep.
need a drink?
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a quitclaim deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri, Shirley Coulter, Keith Coulter, and Michael Coulter.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a quitclaim deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri, Shirley Coulter, Keith Coulter, and Michael Coulter. Pettit?
Yes.
Heidrich? Scornia?
Yes.
Wessels?
Aye.
Patke?
Yes.
Solentrop? Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Reed?
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. We are moving to page 2.
Yeah.
We're doing good.
Need a drink?
You want a drink of water?
We've got money on this. What are you?
Nobody did it.
I got 43 minutes.
Mary never took a drink of water.
I'm assuming you're talking about the length of time it's going to
Packing.
take.
I'm at 43.
I don't remember Mary taking a drink of water.
Okay.
Dang.
Okay, ready? Is everybody good?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Hydrated.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Trent S. Leslie.
Pettit.
Introduced by Councilwoman Pettit.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Trent S. Leslie. Pettit?
Yes.
Heidrich? Scornia? Wessels?
Aye.
Patke?
Yes.
Yeah.
Solentrop? Holtmeyer? Reed?
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a quitclaim deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Trent S. Leslie.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a quitclaim deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Trent S. Leslie. Pettit?
Yes.
Heidrich? Scornia? Wessels? Patke?
Yes.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Solentrop?
Yes?
Reed?
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Kevlar Properties LLC.
Pettit. Whoever.
Yep.
Introduced by Councilman Reed.
Yep.
There we go.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Kevlar Properties LLC. Pettit?
Yes.
Heidrich? Scornia? Wessels? Patke?
Yes.
Solentrop? Holtmeyer? Reed?
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a quitclaim deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Kevlar Properties LLC.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a quitclaim deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Kevlar Properties LLC. Pettit?
Yes.
Heidrich? Scornia? Wessels? Patke?
Yes.
Solentrop? Holtmeyer? Reed?
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the city of Washington, Missouri and Brian Mazarak and Catherine E. Mazarak.
Mazuronic.
Thank you.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the city of Washington, Missouri and Brian Mazaronik and Catherine E. Mazaronik.
Very good.
Pettit.
Yes.
Hydrich.
Aye.
Scornia.
Yes.
Wessels. Patke.
Yes.
Solentrop. Holtmeyer. Reed.
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the city of Washington, Missouri and Harry D. Struberg and Carol S. Struberg.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the city of Washington, Missouri and Harry D. Struberg and Carol D. Struberg. Pettit.
Yes.
Hydrich. Scornia. Wessels. Patke.
Yes.
Solentrop. Holtmeyer. Reed.
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the city of Washington, Missouri and Harry D. Struberg and Carol S. Struberg.
Introduced by Councilman Scornia.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the city of Washington, Missouri and Harry D. Struberg and Carol S. Struberg. Pettit.
Yes.
Hydrich. Scornia. Wessels. Patke.
Yes.
Solentrop.
Aye.
Thank you. Holtmeyer. Reed.
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the city of Washington, Missouri and Raymond C. Tyree Jr. and Christine A. Tyree.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the city of Washington, Missouri and Raymond C. Tyree Jr. and Christine A. Tyree. Pettit.
Yes.
Hydrich. Scornia.
Yes.
Wessels. Patke.
Yes.
Solentrop. Holtmeyer. Reed.
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the city of Washington, Missouri and Linda K. Painter.
Pettit.
Introduced by Councilwoman Pettit.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the city of Washington, Missouri and Linda K. Painter. Pettit.
Yes.
Hydrich. Scornia.
Yes.
Wessels. Patke.
Yes.
Solentrop. Holtmeyer. Reed.
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the city of Washington, Missouri and James J. Simmons and Carla Lynn S. Simmons.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the city of Washington, Missouri and James J. Simmons and Carla Lynn S. Simmons. Pettit.
Yes.
Hydrich. Scornia. Wessels. Patke.
Yes.
Solentrop.
Yes.
Holtmeyer. Reed.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the city of Washington, Missouri and Zoe S. Florence and Laura R. Hazelip.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the city of Washington, Missouri and Zoe S. Florence and Laura L. Hazelip. Pettit.
Yes.
Hydrich. Scornia. Wessels. Patke.
Yes.
Solentrop. Holtmeyer. Reed.
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the city of Washington, Missouri and Elizabeth A. McCullough.
Pettit.
Introduced by Councilwoman Pettit.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the city of Washington, Missouri and Elizabeth A. McCullough. Pettit.
Yes.
Hydrich. Scornia. Wessels. Patke.
Yes.
Solentrop. Holtmeyer. Reed.
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Kenneth P. Augustine.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Kenneth P. Augustine. Pettit?
Yes.
Hydrich? Scornia? Wessels? Patke? Solentrop? Holtmeyer? Reed?
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Matthew B. Pagan.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Matthew B. Pagan. Pettit?
Yes.
Hydrich? Scornia? Wessels? Patke?
Yes.
Solentrop? Holtmeyer? Reed?
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Laverne M. Hemmer.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Laverne M. Hemmer. Pettit?
Yes.
Hydrich? Scornia? Wessels? Patke?
Yes.
Solentrop? Holtmeyer? Reed?
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Nicholas Watts and Cynthia Watts.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Nicholas Watts and Cynthia Watts. Pettit?
Yes.
Hydrich? Scornia? Wessels? Patke?
Yes.
Solentrop? Holtmeyer? Reed?
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Jason J. Burr.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Jason J. Burr. Pettit?
Yes.
Hydrich? Scornia? Wessels? Patke?
Yes.
Solentrop?
Aye.
Holtmeyer? Reed?
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Barbara Heft, Michael E. Shaw, and Michelle Eclor.
Solentrop.
Introduced by Councilman Solentrop.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Barbara Heft, Michael E. Shaw, and Michelle Eclor. Pettit?
Yes.
Hydrich? Scornia? Wessels? Patke?
Yes.
Solentrop? Holtmeyer? Reed?
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Glennon M. Scornia and Brenda K. Scornia.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Glennon M. Scornia and Brenda K. Scornia. Pettit?
Yes.
Hydrich? Scornia? Wessels? Patke?
Yes.
Solentrop?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Yep.
Reed?
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Susan Woodcock.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Susan Woodcock. Pettit?
Yes.
Hydrich? Scornia? Wessels? Patke?
Yes.
Solentrop? Holtmeyer? Reed?
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance.
One more.
One more.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Tyler King and Amber Hartbank.
Patke.
Everybody wants to do that. Let's give it to Hydrich since you haven't done any of the other ones, okay? Introduced by Councilman Hydrich.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Tyler King and Amber Hartbank. Pettit?
Yes.
Heidrich. Scornia. Wessels.
Aye.
Patke.
Yes.
Solentrop. Holtmeyer. Reed.
Yep.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Good job.
27 minutes.
27
Who's
minutes.
got
That's
27 minutes? You're like officially initiated. Way to go, way to go.
Really nice job.
Mayor's report. Can I say really quickly, I think we should recognize those neighbors. That's a big group to get to cooperate on something like this. And so a lot of them came together to make it a reality, and we appreciate it.
Yes, that was a big deal to get all of those folks together.
Your door knocking paid off. Nice job.
Good team.
Usually works. You're not done yet. That's the silliest thing ever. Let's get a bill. Come on. Mayor's report. Government entities. Why didn't you see this one?
That's right. Well, we got it done, though, and think of all those neighbors. Okay.
Mayor's report.
Yeah, so first of all, most of you have probably heard Mark Hausman passed yesterday evening, so I'm so grateful that we did the cemetery and recognized him when we did, so thank you all for your support of that, and Mark will be sorely missed. Those are going to be big shoes to fill, so.
Ron Shear's filling in over at the museum for him.
Is he? Okay, all right. That's good. Ron Shear?
Ron Shear.
Is he on the board?
Yes.
Yes, okay, Ron Shear is filling in for
Only
him.
temporary, they're, got an applicant, got.
A search out.
For somebody to take it.
All right, okay, well, good. I mean, the History Museum is a gem in our community, and Mark brought all that history to life for us. And so.
A lot when we lost Ralph Gregory to move.
Right. Mhm. Yeah. So, anyway, so keep Mark and his family in your prayers. On Friday is when we dedicate the flood marker from the 1993 flood down at the riverfront. Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Peavy is going to be here. So the Corps of Engineers will be here. So it's going to be a brief ceremony, nothing real big, but I believe he will speak. And we're thinking about giving him a tour of the Riverfront Trail. I don't know if we worked all those details out,
Not
but
yet.
whatever. So, but we're working on that.
On a lime scooter?
Yeah, on a scooter. Yeah, no.
We talked about that.
Yeah. Was an
You
idea.
have a time?
It's at 10 o'clock.
Okay, thanks.
10 o'clock
On Friday?
on Friday. Mm-hmm.
The
And it-
don't rise.
Right, and they allowed 90 minutes to be here. And then they're going to be on their way to Kimmswick. To Kimmswick. So we told them we wouldn't take 90 minutes probably, so anyway, but they wanted enough time in there. Okay, also then, the ribbon cutting for the pool is coming up. You all should have received invitations to that, May 26th at 5 p.m. And then finally, this weekend is Art Fair and Wine Fest in downtown, plus the bicycle rodeo. Big weekend in Washington, so we'll have lots of folks moving around and probably lots of visitors in town. So anyway, so be safe out there. And isn't it nice to be able to talk to each other? You know, I've been able to figure out who's been doing these introductions tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to recognize where that voice is coming from, so thank you all. So, that's all I have.
City Administrator's report.
No report, but we do have a couple items in executive session, so.
Council comments.
Yes, I would like to bring something forward. I've been getting a lot of complaints. I don't know what everybody else has been getting about these scooters. I've been getting phone calls about scooters hitting cars. Kids are taking off with them. They don't know why they're not calling the non-emergency number. I don't know, but a lot of people are asking me, well, there's supposed to be a number for traffic commission. And I said, no, you need to call the non-emergency number, 390-1050. So, I know they haven't been on the streets that long, but I'm just seeing them to be a nuisance like I said they were going to be, like I've seen all over St. Louis. And since we gave a proclamation tonight for Bicycle Safety Week and promoting bicycle safety and health riding bicycles, I'd like to make a motion to eliminate the contract for these Lime scooters. And I'd appreciate a second from somebody, and if not, that's your choice. But I don't know what everybody else has been getting, but I've been getting nothing but complaints.
Well, I wasn't in favor of them, but I haven't gotten a single phone call. I mean, I've gotten a couple people that told me in passing that they're a nuisance, but I haven't gotten overabundance of phone calls.
And I have noticed a marked improvement with the revisions that the traffic committee, was it traffic committee made last week?
Correct.
So I kind of have an eye on a lot of scooter activity, and it's significantly improved with those changes. And that was just a week ago, is that right, Chief, that those changes were adopted?
Friday, May 7th, I believe.
Yeah, last week was the first week of changes, and then this week is.
Okay.
The traffic committee brought forth to Lime those changes, and I believe they didn't go into effect until Monday.
Okay.
Of last week, yep.
I've got a few complaints too. I mean, nothing drastic, but I've got, more than a few. My question is, do we have an ordinance on bicycles on the street or on the sidewalk? Is there something down?
Bicycles cannot ride on sidewalks.
You have that. And the scooters, same way?
No.
Huh?
No.
No, don't. We need that?
The scooters can or cannot ride on
They
sidewalks?
can.
Did we change that ordinance?
We need to change that. Yes?
I thought in traffic, we said they could not ride on the sidewalks.
Bicycles are the ones that can.
Oh.
Cannot, pardon me, cannot. No. Scooters are the ones that can.
So scooters
Yeah,
can
well,
or
we need-
can't?
You remove the ordinance pertaining to no fun in the streets, as you call it, which allowed scooters to operate. So the bicycle ordinance for riding on sidewalks says bicycle. So you can't ride a bicycle on sidewalk.
And the Lime scooters at the traffic committee, the only thing that was done, they're going to
Just
put
looking at
signs on there, a prominent sign on
Okay,
there saying,
we
do
brought
not
that.
ride on sidewalks.
We brought that.
But it didn't change the ordinance, and
No.
maybe we should. But,
Yes.
yeah, I don't know why scooters would be allowed, even without Lime scooters. But,
Correct.
the only thing that was done through the traffic committee was they were going to put signs on the scooters.
Which I think they have.
I think they're rolling that out right
They're rolling
now. I
that
don't
out,
think it's
yeah.
been done totality, to my knowledge.
So I have the ordinance here. No person shall ride a bicycle upon a sidewalk within a business district. So downtown, but outside they can. And whenever they're riding it on a sidewalk, it's not in a business district, they have to yield right of way to pedestrian. And then no person shall ride a motorized bicycle upon a sidewalk. A scooter is not considered a motorized bicycle. So
We need to fix that.
Okay.
Chief, I don't understand, why is it is motorized?
it's not classified, it is a mobility scooter, it's not a motorized scooter.
So like those e-bikes would be considered a
Ones that you're
pedaling?
pedaling and then you motorize them, that's a motorized bicycle.
I would agree, though, Dwayne. I think regardless of the Lime scooter agreement, I don't think we want scooters on our sidewalks. Is that, I mean, seemingly makes sense.
What would it take to add that to the ordinance?
We would just have to do that at our next meeting, right?
Correct.
Just amend it and
Just amend it at
that
the next
ordinance that you
meeting.
just read, and say, and motor scooters.
I have stopped some kids downtown riding on them and they were all very polite. They were like, oh, okay, sure. So
And
they,
They didn't know who they were messing with.
well, no, it wasn't that. I was
It's-
very nice to them. I said,
It's
hey.
not an
ride these
issue
on the
when you're,
sidewalk.
it's not an issue when you're not in a business district and they're riding on the sidewalk, the same for bicycles. When you're in a business district and you have people walking in and out of stores
Yeah.
and they're zipping by, it
Right.
becomes an issue.
Yeah.
And I've had some businessmen express that concern to me.
Yes. I mean, that's the only way you're gonna be able to enforce it. You can't enforce it if it's not on the books, right?
Okay, well, let's see. We have to probably vote on one motion, or, right?
I don't know if we have to.
Or do we
Can
need
you
to make a
terminate the
motion?
contract, or do you need an ordinance to terminate the contract, Mark?
No. My memory is you can terminate the contract by providing, I think it's 30 days' notice.
Okay.
So if this motion prevails, we'll have to send the notice out that we're terminating the contract.
30 days. We were
I'm not
told
sure
it,
what the term is, but you have to give them notice that you're going to terminate. You can't just do it today and it's up tomorrow.
But then, do we need to make a motion to change that ordinance with what?
You need to do one at a time.
No, I'm saying, but after you do that, then you have to move them off of the, you can do, we would need a motion if we were going to change.
You need to
the
write the
ordinance.
ordinance and present it, I would guess.
Right. Okay. Any other comments or discussion?
Need a roll call vote on to cancel?
Yes.
Uh,
It,
Do I need a second?
We did have a
Colin,
second.
Sully
Oh,
did.
you did?
Yeah.
Okay,
Steve
I'm sorry, I
did.
didn't hear you. Pettit?
No.
Hydrich?
aye.
Scornia?
No at this time.
Wessels?
No.
Patke?
Yes.
Sulentrop?
Yes.
Holtmeyer?
No.
Reed?
Okay, so the vote is 5 to 3, no. All right.
Can we do that other ordinance tonight, or do we have to wait?
That's got to come back next
I-
week.
And I would ask you to consider, it limits bicycles to business districts. You do the same for scooters. Or the Lime scooter, Lime, whatever.
I think we could be okay.
So the
between now
next
and June.
meeting, whoop, that's your phone, isn't it? I'm looking at the next
You know,
date.
You know,
June
to help,
7th.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, what?
So Darren, is that something you're gonna try to do, is put together that ordinance change?
We can get the ordinance changed, and I'm just looking at the calendar to see when you guys have your next meeting on June the 7th. If you feel comfortable enough, unless you want to go ahead and have a special meeting for it, but otherwise, it would be June the 7th. And I will say, as what Chief said, I sat in on the traffic committee meeting, they were going to put additional signs on them to go ahead and tell them not to ride on the sidewalks, et cetera.
Well, the other part, as you're putting it together, the reason I'm not sure, you kept saying in the business district.
Yes.
I mean, when I think of what a motor scooter is, okay, and I'm thinking things like all up to like Vespas, I don't think they should be on sidewalks anywhere. You know, not just in the business district.
That's why I think if you give us a little bit of time to go ahead and get a proper ordinance in front of you for June 7th.
Okay, all right.
How many
we can cover
business
those.
districts are in the city of Washington?
One.
Well, I think it'd be better if you had a defined area rather than call it a business district,
Yeah,
which
agreed.
is very open.
Well, we did redefine what area they could travel in.
That's correct.
But,
You could set a description on the ordinance for that if you wish. And I think if I'm looking at my calendar correctly, we'll have time for the traffic committee to put it on their agenda.
First Monday or first Friday?
Friday.
They would meet and we would
So
meet
they
the
would meet,
following.
and they would meet the following. So, I don't know, maybe you could ask them to bump up their meeting a week.
We can do that.
We can do that.
after traffic meeting, I had this idea where, we said you had to have a photo ID to rent it.
Yes.
And then they put this sticker on the cart that says, stay off the sidewalk. But I think we should have something about, hey, you have to obey traffic laws too.
That's why we limited to 16, because they've had to take their test to get their driver's license. So they should know the traffic laws.
The complaints I'm getting are they're pulling right
When
out
do we
in
do
front
that?
of people and they're not looking.
That's one of the changes we made in the traffic committee. 16 and older, they have to show proof of a license, anyone that's going to drive it. Now, the issue right now is some younger people still are in the system, and they have to convert them out of the system.
And they were
Anyone
addressing
new that
that.
comes in,
I thought at the beginning it was 18.
Yeah, that's what it was. Beginning was
It
18.
was 18, but it got lowered because at
It was
16
lowered
you had a
because if they
driver's
can drive a
license.
car, why
And
shouldn't
that
they
was
drive a
at-
sky
that was
scooter?
at Traffic committee.
But the IDs became the issue.
Well, we didn't approve it.
No. We never approved 16.
Nope.
It was
You
a-
didn't. You did
No,
not.
you didn't. It was a suggestion, is of the many suggestions that traffic committee came up with, this was a parameter we said, we think you should change
It
this.
was an operational parameter, no different than when the boundary was set. And instead of going back to you guys every 2 to 3 weeks to make those parameters, it was a restriction. And as an operational parameter, it was decided upon to change that immediately rather than wait.
There are cities that have ordinances specifically for these types of operations. We could bring it to you. Our thought process was this was a trial period. Let's get through the trial period. If you, as a council, decide you want to go ahead and keep it, then we would suggest we follow one of those ordinances and bring that back to you.
There again, what is the trial period? I hear 6 months and 60 days.
I think it was 6 months in your ordinance.
I'm looking at it right now.
But you could, with notice, you could cancel it.
You could cancel it before the 6th, but I mean, but that's what was in there.
But 6 months of them riding on the sidewalk, we can't live with.
Right. So if you want to, that's why we can go ahead and get the ordinance, get it in place. That way they can go ahead and enforce it if they
Which
see.
will be difficult, but we'll give it our best shot.
Hey, I told those guys when I rode my bike down the wrong way on a one-way street when I was a kid, the meter man chastised me and.
You clearly did not go to the bicycle safety rodeo.
I did not. I was.
And I've had
Gretchen
stories
would have never
about,
done that because she went to the bicycle safety rodeo.
the Backloggies. I've had stories about Backloggy. If you rode the bicycle in front of his business, he came out with the broom after you. So
George or his dad?
it was his dad.
Yeah, probably his
By
dad.
the way, the traffic committee does meet before our next.
They do, but that wouldn't give them enough time to form an ordinance. We're just going to ask them to bump it up a week. I think maybe we'll shoot it the last Friday of May, maybe. I don't know if that's before or where that falls with the
Change
holiday,
that,
but
that's not
we
a
can do
problem.
it.
Have you guys had any contact with anybody on the police force with any scooters, with any problems?
Other police forces, other agencies,
Have you guys stopped anybody at all on?
on scooters? I can't recall of any activities. We may have told some kids to slow down, but that's
Something
about
like
it.
that, yeah.
I think.
Right now, the big thing is they want to use them for graffiti, so,
Or what?
graffiti.
There was some graffiti down on the trail.
Yes.
That I learned of this morning. Did I hear correctly that when you were meeting about this at the traffic committee, that the police department had only received 10 complaints,
Are somewhere in that, somewhere.
and 5 of them were related to the age?
Yes, correct.
That was the information that was brought forth at the traffic committee, right?
Yes.
Somebody told me that,
And several of them were about on the trail.
about being on the trail.
Yeah.
And they did lower the speed.
That's correct.
Speed
It went
limit's
from,
lowered
it
to 10
lowered
miles
it,
an
lowered it to 10 miles per hour on the trail.
And I was right, John's pulled up the copy of the agreement. It does require 30 days written notice to cancel.
See, that's the first I heard of that too, because I thought we could cancel it and next week they're off the street.
Oh, I heard that before. I remember them talking about that on the initial thing, that it was 30
I don't
days.
remember 30 days.
Yeah.
It was also in the written contract that we had as part of our packet, correct?
Yes.
I'm looking, that's what I'm looking at.
We can move up the traffic committee and come up with an ordinance to present to council for not operating on a sidewalk.
Please do.
But directions, whether you want it to make a business district or define a business district, we can do all that.
I think it needs to be wherever the scooters are rode right now. We got the map that's in purple, and you can't ride them on sidewalks in that area, right?
You could utilize that map if you wanted to as a base, sure.
I don't think we want to put scooters in some spots and not in others that are on the sidewalks.
Right, I think they should,
I mean, that's my opinion. You gotta have
I
them
don't
off
think
the
they should
sidewalk.
be on sidewalks
Right.
anywhere. I'm not even outside the boundary. Like I said, I'm talking about any motor scooter. Why would they be on sidewalk?
So that will mean they don't ride on the sidewalks anywhere, because the parameter is
a pretty big area.
Well, and I guess that's why we're going to look at other ordinances from other communities and see what they do or
If
not.
you choose to keep, if you want to ask us to do that, we can do that immediately. Our thought process was, let's wait and see how we get through the trial period. If it is an ongoing thing, then we would come back to you with the model ordinance that we've seen other cities.
We didn't see any sense in taking the time to develop a specific ordinance for scooters if we weren't going to keep them.
Right.
One other comment I got, unless somebody has something. You know, obviously, it seems like I'm the one that gets the calls on these scooters. So we are not, the city of Washington is not hauling these scooters around in any kind of parks truck or city street truck or anything.
I have only been told of one time by Wayne where they had to pick a couple up and they put it on a truck. That's the only thing. Is it a regular thing? No. That's what I was told.
Okay.
I believe that Lime has hired people out here to be picking him up now, that they have hired some folks from
I
the
was
area.
told they seen a city of Washington truck hauling twice.
Well, you know, the issue, I think the issue that might be occurring, and again, I'm not aware that any public works guys are doing this, but what may be occurring is.
It was
if
a
they-
red truck, so it was a street truck. It wasn't blue. I just,
I,
but that's
you know,
what they told me.
I don't really, we don't really identify, but regardless, is if there was a Lime scooter, let's just hypothetically say, in the middle of a street, I don't think we want our guys not picking that up and moving it or moving it to a different location.
No, but I don't want a pickup load of them either being moved around.
Right, and
with
we.
our tax dollars.
What I do is, I told our guys, stay away from them, don't even get close to them. See, and that's where your issues, I think, it's about perspective a little bit, is I'm telling our guys not to touch them, don't even remotely get close to them, but then we may have an issue with one in an intersection, and they're like, well, what do I do now? So I think the incident that has occurred, or that may have occurred, because I heard it too, that it did occur, is we have to investigate it fully, but the guys know we are not doing their job for them. They know that very clearly.
Can't they just put it next to the curb?
Yeah. If
Yeah.
they're out in the street, that would be
It
the
could,
ideal thing to do.
But there's I would think of a situation on, let's just say, the Riverfront Trail. You know, I don't know if there was a scenario where they would want them off the trail at some point. I don't know. But I mean, those scenarios exist all day, every day. And I don't know the specifics of what you're talking to. I did hear that did happen, though, via Tony, I think. But we didn't really investigate what it was or how it was, you know.
But I would hope if they're in the streets that they take it.
Yeah, exactly. See, that's my point.
Just like any other obstruction.
Exactly, and that's my point, is I
cars
don't want
driving
to just
over.
sit here and say, don't touch them. I don't think that's the right thing either. So I think it's important to know that these scenarios exist to where you may see them at some point for whatever reason, and then we investigate what that scenario was. I don't want to handcuff the guys saying, don't do it. You know what I mean? Because it's not as black and white always.
Again, my eyes weren't on it, John.
Right.
But it wasn't one or two in the truck. It was.
There is a red truck that has a trailer that is part of the group that
Yeah.
picks them up each night and charges them and brings them back in the morning. They also have a light on the roof of their truck. So it's very, yes, sir. So it's very possible that if they didn't
It
see the
is.
sides of the truck, they might have assumed it. And they're picking up large quantities of them. So who knows what they saw, but that might have been it, because even my kids were like, what's going on at the riverfront one day? And I was like, I don't know. And then I was like, oh, that's just a guy picking up scooters.
So it was a red truck
And he
with
has-
with a yellow light.
And it
on
has a
I mean,
light on the
It actually made me wonder, I'm like, it's not allowed, but I don't know.
Yeah, see, those are the scenarios, though, that we do investigate if it's a full issue that we want to look into. So I don't want to handcuff our guys saying, don't touch them either, you know.
Well, and again, if I don't bring it forward.
Yeah,
Then I'm
then
not
you don't,
doing
then
my
you don't get
job.
that response, right.
so-
And now we know, I didn't even know that, so that's good.
I can give you the whole lowdown.
Sounds like Gretchen's the Lime Scooter Police down there.
We spend a lot of time outside.
That's good.
I've never been on one.
I'm glad they don't ride in my area.
All right, is there anything else? Okay.
City Attorney's Report, public vote on whether or not to hold a closed meeting to discuss personnel, legal, and real estate matters pursuant to Section 610.021 RSMO 2000. Pettit?
Yes.
Hydrich? Scornia?
Yes.
Wessels?
Aye.
Patke? Sullentrup?
Yes.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Reed?
You bet.
Okay. I'm glad. Do you want to?
Why'd they stay?
You're getting bombarded,
Oh.
especially with the guy that got hit.
I'm telling you, he's
The little assholes came up and. He came up and smacked her car.
He just don't want it.
I'm sorry, but.
and I